Officially now, have kicked off the Board of Health meeting at 2 p.m.
All righty. Alan Greenberg, Vice Chairman. I'm going to fill in for AJ Fisk, who couldn't make it tonight. First thing on the agenda is to welcome the new Inspectional Services Coordinator Health Administrator. So Jack, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm Jack.
Thank you.
Enjoyed our conversation early the other morning. Thank you very much for reaching out via email with your question. And as I instructed you, feel free to reach out to my cell phone, either by calling me or even better sending a text for anything that I might be able to address or help you through. Monitor it, and get back to you as fast as I can.
I greatly appreciate that.
How you finding things?
I am finding things, so far so good. I do want to send out my great appreciation to Tom, who's been coming every afternoon all last week and this week to help me out with my questions. I have a little table in my cubicle, and those are my Tom question tables. So every time, I was hoping to come in with an empty table. I'm like, yeah, not today. So I really appreciate Tom's assistance with helping me learning the process and the forms that come in, what Missy did for the board.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of, with the program, but like I said, I know Tom echoes this, making your own. We want you to be Jack. Change can be hard, but change can also be good, be productive. So we all have open minds, and it's a team effort.
Yes, I agree.
It's something that no one man or one woman can accomplish. So it's a team effort. We all try to do our part, bring what we have for knowledge from outside into it.
Yes.
And we're expecting you to do the same. Just, grow with time. Anything else, Bob?
Did I tell you how I like my coffee?
No, you did not. That's. I know not to call you before 9 o'clock in the morning.
He knows now not to call me when yeah, I sleep with my regular work.
Yeah.
No, he's been doing great. He's got a few questions he's gonna pose to us. I think we're kind of hoping he'll be here for potentially a couple of technical ones, but we might have some insight in a couple of things. It's just a matter of nailing down, fix the processes for doing certain things, like what might come first, because Jack's finding there are many steps involved depending on what the need might be. So what comes first, second, third, that sort of thing. Who we should reach out to, what. And I think so far you've been good about, you've already made contact with the other folks in the group and talked to Danielle.
Yep.
Already, and he's connected with Steve on a tele already.
Good.
And so you spoke to Tom right again.
Just via email.
Via email, connected with Tom. Excellent. So Tom's aware of his existence.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been good. Funny, you talk about the change process. We've seen a few things that we could probably, what I'll call housekeeping things that probably maybe improve a little bit. Sure. In the process, but I agree. Maybe it's your own. It's got a good background, so good set of skill sets, so foundational. And got the office skill sets. He already asked it to me today. He said he already did something with the job guys.
The job guys, yes. So when they bring in the application, I just type it into a database and I create 3 layouts. We'll print out the job card with the same information, or just certificate of compliance, same information. All I got to do is just type in the information once, and all the paperwork that goes along with it will be printed out when it is needed for signatures.
Aces.
He has 2 added pieces that were great. Also, put it all on one side. Because the original job card had information on the back. Steve on the telly didn't even know it was in.
Never tried it on.
So he's got it all on the front. So that's that. And you got it like an auto fill for permit.
Yes.
So automatically, what happens instead of remembering necessarily what starts with one and automatically for 2, 3. The sequence on it.
Yeah, fantastic. No, hey, whatever we can do to create efficiencies,
I agree.
because there is a lot of work involved.
Yes, I agree.
I'm still an old fashioned pen and paper guy. And I know it's not efficient. But I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So anything that you can, make more efficient. It's awesome. I mean, what you're talking about, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's eliminated. And for the permit number to be not filled. That is definitely what is going to help us get the job done. Because eventually you'll be spending 5 hours doing other things
Correct.
other than Board of Health. So
Correct.
that 35 hours that you do with Board of Health really has to be efficient.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And if you know your way around the computer, around programming, then you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, my first day, I was very happy to see that the town uses FileMaker Pro as the database system, and I know FileMaker Pro inside and out.
Never heard of it before.
Yeah, it's like Microsoft Access, but it was a Mac software back in the day, but.
So I recognize the word Microsoft.
Right.
But no, very good. And, we appreciate you coming on board.
Appreciate you having me.
We kind of felt as though we were closed for a while. So I'm sure, not only board members, but the contractors that interact with you are gonna be
Yes.
really thrilled
Yes, they are happy, yes.
to know that someone's in that seat. Office is open.
Oh, the residents as well, and they've been feeling the pinch, having to kind of put in the bay for a while to get information to them and stuff. And
Right.
slowly getting back. And, I think finally we're at the point where we stop apologizing. I said, you got for the delay. I felt bad. But the point is we're gonna be able to start to get back on track and, move forward. One of the things that I wanted just to confirm, and I'm sure you'll find. Right now, all the emails that we get through Board of Health email, BOH and the mass.gov email, they go to all of us. So I think we're at the point where probably those emails can just go to Jackson. He's got his own email. We take you, me, and Andy out of the loop, and then let Jack run with it. And where he needs our help, Gage just says he needs us. And Tom Ryder, or Danielle, they go from there. That way we're not seeing all the email clean up our end.
Right, I agree, and that would definitely be helpful with someone like myself who can't always log on. So that when I do have the opportunity to log in, I'm not going through all the stuff that doesn't need my set of eyes on it.
Yes.
So that would definitely be an advantage in world band.
Yeah, I already,
Can't allow me.
sent him an email yesterday. And so he said, yeah, so I just want to confirm with us, so we'll make sure they're fine with it. And so I'll give him my latest on it tomorrow. Speak of the devil.
Just driving by, hey, I have to show him how to do, but apparently everything worked.
We got it going. Now, we're in under me, so I'm imagining you were gonna probably set him up.
Yeah, that's fine, he can just log in with his account, but I'll go over with him, we don't have to do it now.
Okay.
I'll give a couple more.
Yep.
We were just actually just talking about what email you about, so we're fine, so when you get a chance.
Yep.
To take all of us out of the loop of the distribution,
Okay,
and just make it Jack's email company, it's saving BOH and the mass stuff.
sure,
So that,
okay, I'll just put him in the group, and if anybody needs to be added at any time, you can always just.
Yep.
Add, he's on vacation, you guys want to monitor.
Yeah.
So,
I'm on vacation for the first 2 years, I think. It's fine.
Yeah,
First year.
Oh, just 1 year?
Yeah.
well, the year's almost up with fiscal.
Oh, there you go.
That's right. Question. Are Mrs. credentials null and void at this point, or there's still access to the credential that password sheet over here?
So I'll have to check unless unless HR had sent over to actually to disable it, they're probably still active.
Okay.
I wouldn't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
And if the data wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, that's stuff, data, so probably this time.
Okay.
Disable them. we generally do is, we don't get rid of the mailbox, we send them to share mailbox, which Jack into his outlook.
Yep.
So we then look at history wise, with any of those
Yep.
items over in his own folders. It's still, so.
As an FYI, what I did start to do a couple weeks ago, replies in per email, just to say this email is no longer being monitored. So people who are emailing her directly, some folks who are so used to getting courtesy, they would get that reply back, and then probably came back on the BOH or we had a phone call. They ever got a phone call saying I couldn't reach. this is the-
No.
I'll also forward anything that's going to her states.
Ah, okay.
That way that shared mailbox, that's another reason why we don't delete, is when we go to the shared mailbox, there's no license attached to it, so there's no cost for a shared mailbox.
Okay.
So it allows us to kind of just keep them in perpetuity.
Right.
They're actually staying for 7 years anyhow, so.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Expect.
Sounds good.
Deal.
Thank you. Thank you very much for stopping in.
No problem.
Lights are on. The lights are on, nobody's home. See you later.
All right, so we are good on it. Just talk to the man that can make it happen.
Yep.
So it's gonna be pretty much up to you. If there's something that you want us to put our eyes on.
Yep.
It comes to you first. Just, forward it. To us as a group. Right?
Yeah, or as if it's an individual.
Right,
Because sometimes you might find that you're dealing with this. There were things that maybe just somebody like an Alan or an Andy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Andy especially, he got the technical expertise in the field. I'm still septic gas.
Yeah.
Alan knows a lot as well, too, physically, so. You may just be in a cabin. One of those.
Yeah.
Or if it's easier to send it out to all of us at the same time, that's fine.
No problem.
Very good.
So I know that though, he might have some examples, I don't know. Without Andy here, if we can help him, I know, I asked him to kind of make a little list, but I didn't have to check, I don't know if you will. If not, we'll
Yeah.
save him for.
Yeah, no, why don't we try it?
You could mention a couple of things.
Yeah, a lot of times with me, what happens is if I can recall a similar situation,
Right.
then I can remember the process. But I don't work with those processes as often as some AJ would in the field. So I have to go back to my notes, or. Yes.
Well, one of the things is. In the whole farms, was it this whole block? And they're holding multiple dates, allow for the vendors to come and display their goods. But on the food application, it says $50 for an application fee. If it's multiple days, I was wondering, should they be an annual fee? So it's good for the rest of the year for multiple dates. Or should we-
I think what we talked about in the past is if someone is gonna come on a regular basis or more than once in a season, so to speak. So let's just say, Tom's Hot Dog Stand is gonna go to Vanderbox 4 times. They should apply for an annual permit versus a one-time permit. Because they'll get the inspection and everything, and they'll only have to do it once.
And it's cheaper that way. It's
Yeah.
$40 for the year versus $50 every time. you go out.
So it's just instead of a one-time application, it's an annual. application. And the same thing would pertain to like people that are coming to the drive-in. Because the drive-in does a similar thing where they bring in food trucks seasonally. So that would be the difference. It's not a one-time thing. They should go for an annual. There's another one, Cousins Lobsters. That trailer, I know that sometimes they're over at the driving range.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're in Vanderbox. Same thing would pertain to them. They're gonna be in town more than once for the season. they should get an annual permit versus a one-time.
Because right now the permit only has the 1 day option.
Right.
So what we should, like housekeeping with the forms, add that onto the form for an annual.
Well, there should be an annual,
There is on the food truck,
Yeah, it's also inconsistencies that we've been finding.
okay,
We're not seeing.
is it a food vendor food versus a food truck food? I wonder how it comes up in the computer.
it was a temporary food
There was a temporary food
establishment.
is how the phrasing was,
Okay,
which that in and of itself, talking to Jack about, it seemed rather confusing because when you take the word establishment, I think brick and mortar. So we're talking, these are some of these little housekeeping things that we may tweak a little bit, change some wording here, modify there. So I would say, what's the word? You better word for that, instead of establishment. Something, event,
Event, yes.
application for, you know, food event instead of establishment. Because these are people that are coming in, they're coming in vehicles, really.
yeah, for the most part, trucks or trailers.
Yeah. And we do have specifically one that does talk, it is titled food truck. But that annual one for the one for establishments confusing because it didn't, that's the one that, this particular example we used to fill out the information. Of course, but we don't have the requirements from this, from that one.
On the establishment one, yes, not on the food truck.
Like the food truck had all those great little
Checklist.
to check things and everything and what you needed. Whereas this other one was kind of like, what do I do? Kind of a thing, so that'll be one of the things that we said, oh, he's got some good ideas on that, cleaning that up, a little bit, making the presentation a little bit better for the people that are gonna apply.
Right, because didn't one of those permits require like a drawing?
Yeah.
That was establishment one.
And that was part of the establishment.
Well, I wonder if Danielle Edmonds could give us some pointers on that. She's worked in multiple towns.
Oh, yeah.
She may be able,
Yeah.
yeah, she may be, and she would, right now, she would be who would be actually doing the inspections.
Yes.
And that computer program that she uses on the iPad to do the inspections. Yeah, I wonder if there's a piece of that that might pertain to these,
Oh, that's possible, yeah.
because I would assume she uses that program or a similar program when she does the inspection of a food truck, a food trailer.
Yeah, she does. It's like a built-in report. We actually have a tablet. Johnny, we were talking about. We have a tablet that actually has Food Pro on it. It's a program, some people base. So Danielle, when she goes out to the inspection, brings up this report and also checks and all things that have to be done. And then it lets her send that report to that individual. For, you know, if they're at, just have on record, and follow, you have notes in there, and they have a report. They can take an action on what they might need to fix or correct. She had to come back again for, probably Danielle, I think is the best person. Maybe, I know she's in town 1 day a week.
1 day.
1 day a week, and it's Thursdays.
And only Thursday.
It's Thursday.
So,
Well, this week is Thursday.
okay, so I'm thinking maybe, you know, reach out to Danielle. Say, hey, I just learned about something new tonight in the Board of Health meeting.
Well, yeah, even maybe print up the permits that we have. Blank.
That's what I did for all the forms on the BOH, I printed them all off.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to say, all right, for this form, is there any fee? Yes or no? If so, how much? Yes or no? Is there any form that I need before this one gets completed? Is there any forms after this one gets completed? So I have a process. And I was gonna ask Danielle about, I believe it's a fever permit application,
Okay,
but I'll ask her about the other food form as well.
those beaver applications, usually Alan Petro, the highway surveyor, is the one that requests those. Because he obviously handles our roads.
Okay.
So he's usually the one that requests one of those. When he has to do something, the only other people that request one is it Nipmuc Lake Association? Have they requested one of those beaver permits in the past, maybe?
They have.
Okay, because they,
Yeah.
there's an area over there that's prone to flooding.
Okay,
The beavers are active. So I think they have either required or applied for one of them. Maybe just they hire someone to do some work, beaver related. Flooding that they experience over there. Other than that, nobody else is really gonna go looking for one,
okay,
that I can think of. But I would, as far as the food establishment, food truck, temporary food permit, I would, have copies. And I would show Danielle and get suggestions from her
perfect.
on tweaking them.
Yep.
Then maybe, mark them up. Or, print up a revised edition for review.
Yep.
And then at our next Board of Health meeting, we can discuss the proposed changes. And, get something rolling.
Sounds good.
And that gives you, if you want to take them with her and send you back something electronically.
Yep.
Because you can't act on it right away, that's fine.
Fine, yeah.
Because we got 2 weeks before our next meeting.
At
So-
least.
At least, so that's, time to look at them, digest them, change them, and, hopefully whatever comes back is, feel is good enough to run with.
Yeah.
And most likely it will be. And then, because we can always make adjustments down the road if we find something isn't working. But at least that will, get the process started.
All right, I can do that.
Right, next.
There's nothing else I can really think of. The
Yeah.
trash senior discount.
Business
form?
certificate.
Oh, the business certificate. That was the installer's permit?
Yeah, so this is where maybe you're recalling. So we had requirement that was listed for, I think it was installers permits, that they needed to supply a business certificate. And I was trying to recollect, I said to Jack earlier, I said, I think that at one point, it hadn't always been in play, we implemented it. But then I kind of remember, I thought we reversed it. Because Andy's the one that I thought came up with that. And then realized that maybe that wasn't, and I couldn't remember if that was the one we reversed ourselves on. I don't know if you remember that at all.
For some reason, I do remember business certificate coming up, but I don't remember why. And I bet you it's not in this pad of paper. I bet you it was a lot.
It's probably close to a year ago. I can talk about it.
The only thing that I can think of that we would have a discussion about a business permit is because maybe we were trying to verify like a business address.
Could have been.
Other than that, you're supplying a certificate of liability insurance, you're supplying a certificate of workers' comp insurance, or you're signing an affidavit that you have no employees.
Because wasn't the example, we were having a discussion, I vaguely remember, I thought we used you and AJ as examples. Because you guys are out there in the working world, you have your own companies. Conversation went to whether or not, do you have a business?
I do not.
And I think that's where it came up, but Jack actually commented earlier today. He's got, or there's an actual, a way you can validate if something has. So you showed me today, that you go on the state's website.
Yeah.
He looked it up in about a few minutes. So I guess the question kind of is, maybe we have to wait for AJ. Do we want to continue with that requirement? And if so, okay, great. And the thought we had was, well, it's nice to know we can access it from the state's website. But if we want to make it a requirement, and I thought the best view would be let the person who's applying provide it.
Yeah, I can't even remember seeing one in the packet.
No, we couldn't find one either when we're going through the old
We
ones.
were searching,
No,
we couldn't find one.
I
That's
mean,
why I think it was sort of a more.
yeah, just like I said, I'm thinking about it and I'm thinking about you know, when we go through and we sign the permits and we're checking to make sure that, you know, the workman's comp is good, the liability is good, the hoisting license is good. Or if it's about to expire, sometimes, you know, the permit might take, take effect January 1st, but on March 1st, their insurance is gonna expire. Well, it's good as when they apply, but we need to make sure that they forward us in March
Yeah.
the new certificate.
And you've seen a few of those come in.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of times, that's why Town of Minden Board of Health is listed in the bottom left corner,
yes,
because if for some reason they don't pay or they cancel their insurance, the insurance company will notify us that they're no longer insured. Yeah, I can't
That's actually
can't
one of the
really
things we
remember why.
certificate we have.
Now-
For that reason.
on some of the stickers, it just says the town of Mendon, not the Board of Health. So does that cover the whole entire town, or do we specifically want Board of Health underneath it as well?
I think we determined the town of Mendon was sufficient. They added in Board of Health, it's okay. Minimum, am I right on that?
I would say you're correct. I mean,
Yeah.
Town of Mendon Board of Health is the correct way to do it,
Okay,
because that way there, the Board of Health is like first in line to get notified.
all right,
And that would definitely be the preference.
Yeah.
But,
And ultimately, we're a department in the town.
right. But it depends upon where it goes,
Right, well, true.
all right? We found that, you know, in the absence of having someone in the Board of Health office, we found that mail goes here. Mail goes
yeah, I've been
there,
noticing that myself,
Right, are they using 18 Main, or they using 20 Main?
I agree.
It's a difference as to where the mail goes. Mail goes. So that can be a problem if it goes to, let's say it goes to town administrator's office. And it doesn't get forwarded to us, whether it be in paper or electronically. We might not, the information might not find its way to us.
Correct.
So I would definitely say on anything, Town of Minden Board of Health is the way to address it. And 20 Main Street is the way to get it done, right?
18 Main Street,
Well, we're 18. I think.
We're 18?
Our building.
Okay.
20 is.
20 is the
this
top.
building. 20 is here.
Okay, so 18 Main Street is the way to get it to our attention.
yes,
Are you finding, by the way, a lot of, you assume you're probably checking periodically the mailbox that's in this building?
yeah, Gail, I go over here and check our mailbox.
Are you finding things in it?
Not really, no,
Not too much.
not too much. Usually the mailman that comes in our office, he'll say, I got one from Board of Health, or I got a few from Board of Health.
Okay.
Is anything with the applications for the senior discount all coming here, or are they going to Board of Health?
Well, so we've been getting those a couple of ways. They've come in here, they've come there, and they've come electronically. People have.
On the viewpoint?
Email them.
Yeah.
On email, so that I got a whole bunch of, we forwarded over Dan during that whole last month. That came in, you know, just forwarded over Dan, Dan was logging into the KBS.
Yeah.
He's got track on that.
Good.
Those he has reading.
Yeah,
Okay, now this business certificate, that was on an installer's permit?
Well, we used that as an example, and I think it was an installer's application. Somebody submitted an application and they were missing a couple of requirements.
yeah, it's Flush LLC.
Flush LLC was the company. I think they were applying to be installed. You know, they sent their picture of the license.
Yeah.
They sent a couple of things, but we noticed one of the things they didn't have was their certificate of insurance. They did also send the registration of the vehicle, but they didn't send an inspection form. And one of the things Jack noticed on the requirements was it only asked for the state inspection form. But we're looking back at some of those forms, a lot of people are automatically sending in their registration. And
For
it's
the
not
for the vehicle?
for the vehicle they're using. We kind of thought, you know, it kind of makes sense that we should probably be asking for both the certificate of registration and the inspection. That way we know you're driving a registered vehicle in Mendon, do the work, and it's inspected.
The problem that we had was when we were talking about that is you can have a company, they can have 50 vehicles.
So not use the same vehicle every single time they're in here.
Right, you got a big company like Wind River, because remember, we were talking about even, I guess some of those vehicles have to have like a sticker for where they dump. And we were talking about making sure that the vehicles were, you know, insured as a motor vehicle, et cetera. And then as we progressed, well, for a company that has one truck, that's no problem.
Yeah,
But for a company that has 50 trucks, and you get, you know, some of these larger companies,
Right. Remember
because
that?
we were even thinking of driver information.
Right. That's right.
It wasn't feasible.
Right.
The more we discussed it, it just wasn't practical to do that.
So should we then really, we're going to, because of that situation, should we really kind of clean up that requirement and not list it as a requirement? Even at all? If you want to be consistent,
Yeah,
why ask from somebody, not, you know,
well,
don't expect to get it from somebody else.
I think if you're talking about a company that has one or two trucks.
Right.
And they supply us with they list the truck, 68 Mac,
Yeah.
3,000 gallon.
It's a copy of it.
Right. Yeah, but they also write it out on the form, if I remember
Oh,
correctly.
yeah.
They write out the truck, but
Okay.
that's probably an AJ question.
Okay.
But I remember the implications we ran into when we started discussing it, and you have multiple drivers. And I think what spurred that was we had a company that was trying to operate in town that maybe had like Florida plates on the truck,
All right.
and we weren't sure whether we were being smoked or not.
Fly by night.
Because there's those big trucks, there's different types of plates.
Yeah,
Semi plate or portion plate. There's temporary plates. And we thought someone was attempting to pull a fast one, and we weren't sure how to deal with it, because at one point, remember, we talked about talking to DOT,
Yes.
local DOT representative.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think that's how that came about, and then we found that it was just gonna be impossible to enforce.
To enforce it.
It's really easy to make a guideline,
yeah,
but if you can't enforce it,
I add it.
So that goes to the question, I mean, if you want to ultimately wait, see if Andy's in agreement. But I would think that Andy's of the same mindset. I would say, why list it on requirements? We're really not gonna try to enforce it, just take it off. If we can't be, you know what I'm saying?
right? Oh, no, very, very, you know, again, we find these situations that question it's, you know, what we're doing. I mean, at one point, if you remember, there was going to be line for where the material was being purchased from, soil gravel. And we found that that was just too restrictive. You know, because AJ being out in the field, working for different towns, he sees what the different applications look like. Or he talks to the different inspectors, and they you know, give him their outlook on the industry. So he tries to take that information and bring it in and help make the Mendon Board of Health better.
Of course,
And sometimes it just doesn't work for Mendon.
yeah,
It just, you know, doesn't work. And we find that out and we change it up. You know, fortunately, we don't have any situations where we have big chemical plants, different things that require very stringent regulations, not even guidelines. So not everything that AJ brings back that he learns about that's being done in a different town helps us. Now, I know conversations with Tom Ryder, our engineer. He's brought a lot of things that he sees, like job cards and things that he sees in other towns. And we try to incorporate the best of it and what works for men. AJ was a big one for the job card. And there's, sometimes there's little hitches with that because, get wet.
Yeah.
The inspector needs to be able to sign it, so, you try to leave it in the machine or sheltered area so that when the inspector comes, he can sign it, have it, and we talk about these things, to try to make it work. You can't bring something back that's a wet noodle. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Do we need to get a laminate machine?
Yeah, but how you can sign it after it's laminated? So, that may very well be that what we're talking about, truck, regulate, registrations, et cetera. That may be something that we need to look at.
Yeah, I remember that conversation I was having. Okay. What else do we got in this example? Who's looking up? Okay, so we now, our perspective, we only have heard from you guys in the background. When it comes to above, that's a building, they only have concerns about
To
that.
my knowledge, it's building and plumbing. And the reason it's plumbing, is because if you're using your outside spigot to fill it as your water source, there has to be a backflow preventer.
Okay.
And I believe there's supposed to be a backflow preventer on your outside spigot anyway. Just to prevent water that's in the hose from going back into the house. That water that's in the hose and it's cooking isn't a good thing to go back into your house.
That's true.
So most of the time when you have someone install one, move into a house, that's already on there. So I think the only time the plumbing department gets involved on above ground is because they want to make sure that there's already one of those on.
Gotcha.
And it's health and safety.
Yeah.
I grew up drinking until I learned it wasn't the best thing to be doing.
Hey.
Come check out my spigot in my house. That's a good tip. I haven't done it.
Yeah, so I think the reason that Board of Health gets involved with in-ground pools is because of the proximity to the septic system and the proximity maybe to really on the form, we want to know what the water source is going to be initially to fill the pool, because that could affect your well. Other than that, it's mostly, building department that we handle either of those items, whether it be above ground.
Well, we have our sets of requirements. I mean, it's probably something that goes in building two for in-ground.
Yeah, it starts in building, from what I understand. Permit process starts in building. Actually, I have two key fill back there. It starts in building and then it goes to us.
Okay.
This is the first permit. And you'll notice the big difference between this permit and the one that was finally submitted.
Now, what's that permit there, Alan? Is that building permit?
No, that is the Board of Health portion of the permit.
Okay.
If you look at the measurements for the well and the SAS. Yeah, see, our requirements, we want an as-built plan showing placement of the pool in relation to the house well, septic system, and soil absorption system. So we want to know distance to tank, distance to
Leach field.
leach field,
Yeah.
distance to the well.
Yeah.
And then the pool must be placed a minimum of 10 feet away from the septic system, so you have a minimum distance there. And then it has to be a minimum of 20 feet away from the leach field itself. So those are our requirements.
Yeah.
There's-
So somebody
there's another
comes-
good-
So if somebody comes to us,
That's the original drawing sentence. Look, and if you notice the location of the pool,
Yeah, because it's the one that we emailed about.
yeah, we were
Right,
talking,
right.
we were talking about last week. The original drawing turned out to be a little different. than-
Yeah. What was originally submitted?
so, we're very fortunate that Gail brought it to our attention.
Yeah.
Because they were looking for their permit. And Tom and I went into that address and said, something's not right yet.
Yep.
And then, the gentleman got a home visit and we got it all straightened out.
Well, here's another pool application.
Okay,
But again, if you did my first pool, application. This is what was submitted paperwork. But again, I don't know what type of plan I'm supposed to be looking at before I even begin the process. Like for sewers, I don't know, I'm supposed to be looking for as-built plans.
So at minimum, you're gonna want to see a plan that says that. That's a base requirement from us.
Minimum.
It would be an as-built,
Gotcha.
which means that, you know, we'd have to,
Yeah, see, this is not an engineered stamp plan.
right,
This is essentially, I'm gonna call this a plot plan.
okay,
It shows that the house is on the lot. But it's not an engineered plan. And again, it almost looks like the pool is drawn in here on this
That's exactly
plan.
what it looks like.
that's, yeah.
And they used whatever the scale was to come up with the measurements.
What do we see in the corner of the paper?
Like map.com or something.
Yeah, Blackstone Valley mapping. And then here it's assessors parcel.
So I like the terminology, engineer stage plan.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the one that for 2 King Phillip Path, now, that is an engineered stamp plan, but it's not an original. And the pool obviously wasn't drawn in there by an engineer.
Mhm.
But at least we know that that's the engineered plan, so we know that the septic system, the house, et cetera, the well, soil absorption system, we know that those are correct. Okay, so this is.
This is the one where I said, is this plan acceptable?
Yeah, see, and there's. The measurement setback from well is missing. So, yeah, I have some questions on that as to whether it's complete.
Yeah.
Now, B and L does a lot of installs here, they should know better. They do a lot of installs in town, B and L does a ton of pools in this area. They're out in Lethbridge or Whitens Hill area.
So I'm wondering, like, as we're talking about this, so what we've listed, what homeowners or people will see, you got those 3 pieces of criteria. When you say first things like you have to go,
Now, first thing is an as-built plan,
so should
showing
we,
placement of the pool.
You got,
so do we need to, within that description, so that quote unquote maybe layperson understand that as built, i.e. engineered stamped,
Yeah,
I like that.
parentheses,
I like that a lot.
so they understand, oh,
Because as I was telling Tom, like all these forms that I'm seeing and reading, I'm like, as somebody who's seeing this for the first time, I really don't know what you guys are looking for.
right,
And if I'm able to understand what you guys are looking for, I'm able to do a checklist and say, hey, this is what you need. Maybe a little description of what exactly it means type of thing. So the person who's reading it for the first time goes, oh, okay, now I know what to do, now how to get it type of thing.
exactly. Want to make it, I mean, I would want to make it easy for the people
Exactly.
looking at it on the outside.
well, I think what happens sometimes, and what I'm finding is sometimes the homeowner submits the application and for the permit, and sometimes the pool company.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
So if they're not communicating,
which happens a lot,
then you end up with different things.
but at least get the information that representing to the public, no matter what might be with the homeowner. Installer, they're seeing that really specific information of as-built, parentheses, engineered stamp plan. And they, okay, this is what they want.
Right, and like I said, the one that was submitted there for 2 King Phillip Path.
Right.
The second time round
Second,
is definitely a lot more accurate and trustworthy
oh, sure.
than the first one, which essentially was a
Google
plot.
Maps.
Right.
Google Maps, basically.
Yeah, so like I said, we probably have to look at it and see if, because an engineered stamp plan would mean
Fine.
that the engineer actually comes out and states where the pool's going.
Yeah, it's gotta be, what's an expense? That, you know.
And we went through that with wells,
Yes, we did.
right? So now, the cost of putting a new well in could actually be $1,000 worth of engineering before you drill a well. If you're gonna have the engineering company come out, state where the new well is, and submit an engineered stamp plan. An engineered stamp plan should be an original, not an engineered plan that was modify. That's why there's that stamp. So like I said, what came through for 2 King Philip Path is definitely a lot better than the first round. And I know from talking with the homeowner that it shows the pool where the homeowner wants the pool. And
So what came through the second time is not an engineer's stamp.
not really.
Right, so you have perspective then, because you put your eyes on it. So are we saying in that particular example, this is allowable?
I need to, we need to discuss it.
So meaning that, not to say it's, you're not on the right track, because is there room for saying that are we being too restricted by using the term as-built?
Well, again, an as-built plan and an engineered stamp plan are 2 different things.
So
Well, wait a minute now. An as-built plan
it's typically
is
stamped by
what,
the
it
engineer.
is an engineered stamp plan because it's after the septic system is installed and the house is built and everything. The engineer comes out
Yeah.
and draws everything.
They're certifying that this is
Right,
what.
because maybe during construction, the house had to be tweaked. a little, or the septic system had to be tweaked a little. It's not exactly what the proposed plan was. There could be a 1/10 or 100th of an inch difference in one of the pipes, you know, or the distance between the house and the septic tank. Maybe it was supposed to be 10 feet, and it's 10 feet 6. So that's what the as-built plan would show. So yeah, the as-built plan is a plan that's drawn up by an engineer and stamped as to, this is what I found as built.
Now, interestingly enough, just to counter that statement, Jack received a plan today from a homeowner who's doing a expansion on their home. Somebody I've been dealing with kind of behind the scenes before Jack came on. And he delivered to Jack a plan that actually has the words as-built. There's no engineer stamp on it. But that came, that was, what was the date on that one? 1991?
Yeah.
So back in the day when maybe, I think it's 30 years ago, obviously back in the day, that was an as-built. Maybe back in the day, the engineer didn't quote unquote stamp it. I don't know. the
I don't
history.
think so.
Okay, I don't know.
Is this the lot 68?
That was the 68 North Ridge Road.
North Ridge Road, yeah.
address.
See, I can remember working off of plot plans.
Right.
And were not stamped by an engineer.
Yeah.
Usually, that was like what a bank required for your mortgage.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to make sure the house was actually on the property.
Right.
So, but it didn't have an engineer's stamp on it. That was a plot plan.
This one actually had the words as on it, but no stamp.
Yeah, I'm gonna say if you went beyond the 80s, you might find that, but an engineer is a registered licensed entity.
No, I got it.
So, I mean, there's a reason they have a stamp.
Sure.
You know, it's to protect the entity. Just anybody can have that stamp. There's
Yeah.
requirements
Yeah.
to be able to do that. I have been told that at different engineering facilities, there may be a junior engineer that may actually do the work and do the design. But the senior engineer is the one that reviews it and stamps it. So there's some importance there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A stamp plan has some importance. So
So the answer is,
I think, again, that's something that AJ could probably shed some light on, especially in the septic system world.
Yeah.
As to what the limitations are.
how stringent we want.
But I mean, here we're calling it an as-built,
Yeah,
but yet we're talking about an engineered plan. Are they really the same? Or are they, is there a difference that I'm not picking up on because it's not something I deal with on a daily basis?
right.
That might even be a Steve Donatelli question, where he is a licensed engineer,
There you go. That's right.
you know? I mean, you could ask like Fred Lapham,
Fred even, yeah.
but Fred,
Yeah.
to my knowledge, Fred isn't a licensed engineer. He owns the firm,
Okay.
but he has licensed engineers working for him.
him.
That's what I understand.
Okay.
Uh,
Is his son a licensed engineer?
could be, could be. But just because you own the firm doesn't mean you own the license
Right.
also.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
I mean, so like I said, you could ask the question of Fred even,
Sure.
who, you know, he had quite a bit, and he's definitely right on.
Yeah, I've seen him a few times this week.
Yeah, no, that's a great guy.
Looks
real
great guy,
knowledgeable.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
He
you know,
said to
maybe,
me in conversation the other day, is that he might, if he didn't already reiterate it to you.
Yeah, he did.
Reach out, it's a great source, it's been around a long.
and actually, if you remember conversations we had with the building commissioner, most of these guys are very protective of their license and want to, you know, follow the rules and regulations of the state of Massachusetts because they don't want to lose their certification. So like I said, a stamp plan, it has some importance. So we probably need a little bit of clarification from an engineer as to the difference between an as-built and an engineered plan. And we may find that they're the same, we're just calling them by two different names.
Yeah.
Um, I know I always get nervous when I see someone hand drawing on an engineered plan.
Well, that's what, up until recently,
What if the scale's not?
True. So true.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you may have enlarged an image, or shrunk an image.
well, it wasn't up until too long ago when we were getting hand drawings, and we ultimately decided, wait a minute, we can't be doing this. Not only was it was specific necessary for pools, but.
No, I think it was the wells.
Was it the wells?
I think that's what started that well
We were
regulation.
getting, hand drawings. Can't go like this. We decided, get down the rules, this has to be an engineered stamp. Somebody's gotta come out, they gotta have recorded distances, they gotta put the stamp on it. So that we know exactly, you know, your hand drawing is nice, you draw it well, but we need validation.
Yeah.
Well, you know, especially with, you know, wells and septic systems, it becomes a health issue.
Mhm.
If your system is too close to your neighbor's well, you know, and we ran into a lot of these issues when it was either dealing with around the lake, where you have, they could, I know Missy was working on it at one point, it's still cesspools there.
Okay.
That haven't had to be updated. Because either the properties haven't changed hands, or there's no failure. Or the village area, right out here, where the lots are very small. The engineering is old. A lot of times you find that, you know, the corner of your shed is on your neighbor's property, and it's been like that forever. Nobody knew until an engineer actually came out and staked it. You know, it got to a point where, especially with the importance of good drinkable water, that we had to put that regulation in, even though we knew it was going to be an expense.
Yeah.
It was that important that it had to be done.
Definitely.
So, you know, as far as the pools are concerned, we want to make sure that the well, the septic system, the septic tank are protected.
Yeah.
You know, not compromised. So again, an engineer would have to give me some insight as to the difference or similarity between an as-built and a stamped engineered plan. I think they're very similar, but there could very well be a technical thing that is different between the two.
So we have some good network references to that.
Yeah.
JP one, or that update, another, Steve, tell you.
Yeah.
We don't get three different instances.
Well, I mean, again, it's almost like, you know, if I could go to Webster's.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
definition. Probably Google there, right? There you go. Google. But yeah, I have a feeling there's probably just a little nuance difference.
But whatever ultimately is the decision. Various applications that we see, requirements that we see. goals to try to just be consistent as best we can, so that the average person looking at it from the outside in can understand it, because if we don't know how they are.
Well, again, you know, going back to the food permits, there are some vendors that set up an tent. So that's a temporary food establishment, but it's not brick and mortar.
It's, this is a good point.
And when they draw, you know, this is where my water is, this is where dishwashing station is, this is, they draw it out, but it's in a tent.
Good point.
So, you know, I
Maybe
mean,
that's why the word establishment. But I still like, I don't know. Still see changing for establishment.
or maybe there needs to be a line that defines what establishment is,
There you go.
you know, i.e. food truck, food trailer, temporary tent situation.
Because I believe the Mo Marshmallows guy that got the application that just came in, he's just setting up tables from his van.
Yeah.
That's all he's doing is just tables.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you could have somebody at the, I'll think back to like the 350th block party.
Yeah.
You could have someone that's got a 10 by 10 tent and a cotton candy machine,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, and a hot pretzel machine. And that's a food establishment.
It's established, yeah.
Um, So maybe we need to have like I said, an IE
Right.
to kind of define what establishment covers.
Yeah, while I'm picking up along the same line, we had a conversation earlier today about regard to food, and specifically with regard to the Vanderbox event coming up this summer. How does the fire department play? Regard to possibly needing to do their inspections, people that come in, that might come in, maybe a little more involved setup, that might involve propane tanks and things that fire inspectors, that the fire department has to inspect to make sure they're working. What I didn't know, be able to tell Jack, was what is the link? So if we get word that somebody wants to come in and do like this event, multiple days, is there something that had been done in the past behind the scenes that would notify the fire department, say, hey, guys, just a heads up, getting applications for food permits for a big event taking place, just to make you guys aware so that they can do what they might need to do with regard to that event.
That's a really good question, because I do not know how that works.
But
And for the same matter, the reverse,
not true.
the fire department gets notified of the situation. Or an event that's coming up. And needs to pass that information on to other town departments that might be involved with certain inspections or whatever. I don't know how that communication works, to be honest with you.
Well, what I said to Jack is, I'll reach out to Bill, just let him know. But hey, we have the situation as we got to talking about it, about the fire aspect, inspection standpoint. Just wanted to get an idea of what has been or what might need to be the communication rule here. We hear about these things, give you guys a heads up, has there been something in place or just a,
Yes, yeah, all I can think of is the old rubbing slips.
yes.
You know,
Yeah, that's what you say.
That's supposed to go around to everybody so that everybody has a chance to put their eyes on it and check off on it.
Right,
Or to stop the process and ask questions
right,
before it continues on to the next part.
right. I wonder if that's the mechanism.
Is that a viewpoint?
That's the viewpoint documents you see. This is town amendment.
Yeah, Board of Health
That's
review,
that.
building permit review.
That's basically the routing slip process.
Ah,
That's
gotcha.
the electronic way. It used to be an actual manual. But it became viewpoint, so it taps all the departments, all the departments can go in and do their notes if they need to, or possibly pull something. We determine we're really not in a position to hold, we should still be using it maybe to make notations for ourselves, right? Because there was a time we were actually kind of holding things, because something might have been detected on a property that didn't quite jive with the requirements needed from what we had purview for. So we actually hold it, kind of became a bit of a point of contention, because then it would continue on to the other departments,
Yeah.
especially building times in. So we ended up having a meeting a while back, kind of determined that from a legal perspective, we really can't hold it, but we still want to continue making notations in it, use it from a notation standpoint, so that we could maybe take action from in our department to follow up.
Yeah.
So moving along, we see it, we put our eyes on it, or we have to maybe reach out to this resident business and follow up on this particular aspect that we're seeing. Okay, we're now gonna move it on, and our building can do what they do.
Yeah.
Well, even that note can be read by other departments.
Right.
So let's say it makes it to the assessor's office. The assessor's office is scanning through and reading the notes. Even though the process didn't get stopped, well, they can back taxes on this property. And that was sort of one of the reasons that my understanding that this routing slip kind of, because it was an effort to, all right, you want your building permit, well, you gotta clean up this undertaking, this business that hasn't been taken care of first. And like Tom mentioned, we learned that. But at least it gives the department an opportunity to reach out to the person and say, hey, you get some unfinished business that you need to take care of. And it may be, something that will get that unfinished business taken care of.
So,
But we did learn from the building commission, talking about this, he has to protect his license, that he felt when he read the regulations that really couldn't legally hold up a permit. And that's when this discussion came about as to, all right, do the notes, keep it moving, but those notes are gonna be logged in there for everybody to view down the road.
And that decision was actually validated, supported by our legal counsel. It's part of the call. So not only the viewpoint, but it was again validated by legal, since you had it. Really shouldn't be doing that. It's still a good tool.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely. It does give someone an opportunity to make a phone call and try to get something buttoned up that hasn't been taken care of. You can't hold their feet to the fire, unfortunately, but sometimes they just need a reminder. Sometimes it's not intentional.
Yep.
And they just need, oh, okay, yeah, I can take care of that. Who do I need to see? And then it gets buttoned up before it, becomes a problem. It could be something that was on a property from a previous owner. You never know.
Yeah.
What travels. And obviously, you've learned that it seems as though everything goes by address.
yes,
Everything goes by address.
Very familiar with the address.
yes, very much so.
So, it might not even pertain to the present owner. Right? It could be something that's been sitting there, 3 owners deep,
Yeah,
depending upon the age of the property. Times it's changed things. All right, cool. Very good.
very
Are
good.
there any other particular examples?
Not off the top of my head now, but that does help a lot.
It's good, yeah.
It's a good start, yeah.
Yeah.
So the next item is, which we probably already covered, but discuss and review BOH processes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what this really discussion. was.
Right. The next thing.
Unless you want to call, we just did a very long note on the draft.
Well, no, that's why I said we already covered that, and you didn't give me the opportunity to read the agenda. So next thing would be trash recycled billing.
Mhm.
That's a big topic.
Is it?
Where do we want to go with that?
All right, so, I have been able to find some data, in folders. I did locate the contract, for a second extension year. So I have the dollar value for that, which I believe is 337,000 and change. Fortunately, this is where I had all these documents I printed out. To the house. If you wanted me to, I could break real quick and grab that stuff.
Surely up to you.
I mean, I'm willing to do it.
I mean, it obviously has some importance. to getting it done because we're gonna run out of time, right?
So the important aspect about the topic is setting the bill rate, which needs to be done by Friday. And it's got to get that bill rate from us. So you can put it in the KBS, build the database, and ultimately that's what's going to go up in Kelly line. Bills to be generated.
Why are you sitting?
Why am I still sitting here? So
You're excused.
I'm excused.
You're excused. Make sure the door doesn't lock on.
Good thing I'm very humble.
That's right. Make sure the door doesn't lock on.
All right, I'm put up, we're getting there.
All right, they were very good. Okay. We're gonna take a little break, folks.
Yep.
And I know we are eating good.
Okay.
I saw on, I'll call it your resume information
Uh-huh.
at one point, something about websites.
I used to design websites.
Would you be interested in working on a website?
I don't know coding as it was back in the day.
Okay.
I used Dreamweaver, Adobe Dreamweaver, and that's how I designed it. Was a bunch of coding.
Yeah.
Now it's changed so much. I haven't touched the website in over 15 years.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know websites existed 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know something? I'll tell you the situation. My daughter has a nonprofit called Living with the Ribbon Foundation. And she went to Stonehill College. A lot of her friends and her twin sister. They started this foundation 3-4 years ago. I bought. Finished it.
There are websites out there for a small amount per month. Where you just drag and drop. They give you templates. You can change the colors. You add in your text stuff and how many pages you want. It all depends on how much money you want to spend.
Yeah.
But
I believe we pay an annual fee for a host.
hosting, so like a GoDaddy.
Yeah, it's not that, but I know we pay like an annual fee for, again.
It's hosting. It's the website being hosted on a server somewhere in the country.
Okay, yeah,
So it could be accessed somewhere.
right, but I know that it's like been under construction. It's never been complete.
What's our domain name? The www address?
I believe it's livingwiththeribbon.org.
Let me dig up some information.
Okay,
Livingwiththeribbon.org.
Living with the Ribbon, maybe Foundation. No, it's definitely.
That's like writer's Spring.
Yeah.
I'll look for both. There's some website designs that you can do it on your own that are very simple. Depends on how sophisticated she wants to be with her website.
Right, originally, like I said, it was worked on by a student and it is sort of up and running. I haven't looked at it in a while. There was pictures on there and things, but I know eventually she'd like to get it to the point where people could electronically make donations, electronically register for events. Because what she's doing in the interim is, like if we have in September, Golden Lights Night, it's Pediatric Cancer Month.
Yeah.
We have a dinner. She uses a service and the service takes a certain percentage. So they're interacting with a different website.
Yeah.
Even for our golf tournament that we have in June, same thing. And obviously, a lot of the people that participate and support the foundation are very electronically tapped in. That's how they do things.
Yeah.
So I was under the understanding at one point, they wanted eventually the website to get to the point where they handle all that traffic on their own.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just happened to see that and I said, geez, it comes on board. Maybe I can tap for some.
Yeah, I did websites design when I worked for a Human Services Management Corporation out of Milford.
Okay.
And my main office was in the Evergreen Center, which feels,
Yeah.
yes, the Evergreen Center. And that's where I designed the websites back in the day.
Okay,
That was with Dreamweaver code.
all right.
But now
Yes.
stuff has changed so much.
I'd love to tap Dan Byer, but that man can't do any more of these.
I can't believe how much stuff is on his to-do list. That poor man is like stretched all over the place.
He is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah,
He really, really is.
Yeah.
I mean, when he loses his health for the Parks Department, when they go back to school,
Yeah.
he's out there in the dark. To find his park. Mowing the lawn, or blowing leaves.
yeah.
And then the next thing you know, he's hanging Christmas lights and he is out there. I don't know when he sleeps. He is unbelievable. And it's the same way in spring when he's trying to get things going for parks,
Yeah.
and for the beach and everything, until his help comes on board. And even when his help comes on board, he's still
Still running around.
100 miles an hour. I mean, you know, he was trying to help us with standard, the billing system
Okay,
that we use, I believe it's standard. So they were the only two that use that system. So he was, you know, trying to help with trash using standard.
yeah.
But I don't know how he does.
I don't mean it.
What is that going
I know, because downstairs he drive past here like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And his office, like, what does this guy sleep?
No idea. No idea. I know that I was very happy. He could be spot in town.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us, our kids can't afford to. So, I mean, I was thrilled when he managed to get himself a place on Providence Road to stay in town, because that's really what
Yeah,
he loves, man. And wanted to locate this. Wow, he does.
talk about
Let me
the
ask you, do you want
I'm good right now, but thank you. All right, so Tom is back.
talking about Dan.
back, hey, the benefits of logistical proximity.
Did you play that when you ran for the board? Short commute to work? Jay volunteer job?
Works out well. All right, let's see.
It's kind of interesting how close all to each other.
That's right, you live on the same street.
Oh, you did?
Well,
Yeah, I drive by Tom's house and AJ's house to get to my house.
Can you honk as you drive by?
Oh, sometimes.
And she goes around my house.
Depends if we're trying to be friendly. Sometimes I'm trying to knock his trash can.
Well, speaking of trash can, so Phil's on vacation this week.
Oh, on the truck road.
Oh, okay, that was my next thing I was gonna mention. The guy who was covering for him, he was coming up the road, and I just happened to look out the window, and I see he's lifting my lid and putting the trash bags in the medium line. What? So the truck broke.
Well, I forget what time it was, 1:30 maybe. I was going up Blackstone Street
Yeah,
and almost at Inman Hill Road,
okay.
the tow truck was picking up the truck. And before that, I believe it was Washington Street, I saw two guys in the trash truck.
Okay,
So I'm like, two guys in the trash truck, maybe one guy's training.
Yeah,
right.
But like I said, from Washington Street to Blackstone Street, I got my answer when I saw the truck on the hook. Yeah, at 1:30, I believe they were picking it up.
Because this was this morning.
Yeah, well, I don't know how,
He came by, this
Maybe
guy
Phil
came by
was-
about 9.
yeah, maybe whoever came in the second truck was working with Phil to get the stuff picked up.
I mean, and that guy's truck just doesn't have arms on it,
It's possible.
which is possible. It definitely wasn't Phil.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still on for the week or just that one day. 'Cause he got calls.
oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is I was watching a hobby truck get hooked.
Because he ended up
Blackstone
using
Street.
he used the network, he was getting calls. And that was Mike, right?
Microphone,
Yeah,
yes.
so it fills out. But then he saves up for the week.
I thought this was on vacation this
He's on
week.
vacations.
Well, if he was on vacation and the truck broke in the same week, that's.
That's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate.
That is, that I would not want to be. Answering those questions.
No.
Uh,
All right, so trash recycle building? right?
Hit me.
Okay, so I was able to locate some documents that might help us out in determining the rate. I put in my head is I located, document that reflects our proposed fiscal year 2023 budget. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The items that we need basically determine the rate. Going to be knowing the, amount of monies for the contract with Yale Harvey,
Yeah,
the, cost for the disposal aspect. which
right,
would be
per
waste.
ton.
Well, that plus about the overall number.
Right, but we need to know how much it is per ton, depending upon where we are in that 10-year
Yep.
agreement.
David?
And then we need to know what our historical tonnage has been,
Yep.
so that we can come up with a pretty good guess of how many tons,
Okay.
because the tonnage fluctuates.
Yeah.
It might fluctuate seasonally. So my best guess would be if we had a, at least a 12-month period to look at of history, we could decide within reason what our projected tonnage would be for the next 12 months.
Yep.
Multiply it by what the fee is going to be per ton for that 12 months. And that'll give us that information.
Well, currently, I can tell you that current rate per ton is $71.07.
7107.
Yeah, what we're charging now. I did reach out to a gentleman I had communicated with. You might have seen his name come through. He was originally, had submitted some invoices to us that kind of got in arrears a little bit. Majority was the input.
Yeah.
From Invoice Management. So I reached back out to him. And just confirmed the rate now. I also asked him, can you tell me what the FY 2023 rates? He emailed me back and he had included a gentleman who I guess is on the facility side. I haven't heard back yet on what the rate is gonna be for the next fiscal year. So at that point, so right now, I don't know how much it's gonna jump. I'm suspecting it's gonna be jump. It's gonna go up.
Well, I would have thought with that 10-year agreement that was negotiated with the multiple towns,
Yep.
that would have already been determined.
Well, you might be right.
I just don't know where that information is.
Right.
What Missy did was Missy joined up with a group of towns that as a whole negotiated a 10-year agreement with Wheelabrator with, as I understood it, predetermined tonnage rates for that 10-year period.
And just so not to be, you're not confused, Wind Waste Innovations. So the names are interchanged. So you have it all great. It's Wind Waste Innovations.
Yeah, because that was the bill I showed you, the 3 pages.
It was under Wind Waste.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So that number should exist somewhere. And I believe it would be in a folder titled trash.
Well, I did come across a document that listed past FY years that talked about the tonnage and the rate. But unfortunately, not all the charts were filled in, so back in fiscal year 2016, it was $64. 2017 is no value. 2018, it was $67.14. In 2019, it was $68.18. 2020, it was $68.97. And the highest I got was 2021, there was no value. I couldn't find anything beyond that showed.
Looks like it's going up a couple of bucks a ton every year.
Well, so that's why I say that I'm expecting a higher rate. And again, that may be determined based on that agreement. But I'm expecting it's gonna be greater than what we're currently.
Right, I would assume that anyway.
Yeah.
But again, if they negotiated a 10-year agreement.
Yeah.
Then it has to be on out somewhere.
Somewhere
some
there.
document.
Yeah.
Because, and it is probably in that document, it probably states maybe year 8. They can come back to the table and negotiate another agreement.
Right, for extended period of time.
Right, because obviously these towns aren't gonna go away,
Right,
and neither is wind waste management gonna go away. So everybody wants to map out the next period of their existence.
Yep.
And I mean, good business for both parties concerned.
right,
And we know, and we've been told by the experts that everything is going up.
Yeah.
And we've been told about what the trash situation is for a long.
Yep.
Even on the recycling side where there's no market for the recyclables and it's cheaper to get rid of them as trash than it is to get rid of them as recyclable.
Yeah.
So we've been warned that trash is gonna be a problem, no matter how you do it. Whether you do it the way Mendon is doing it,
Yeah.
by trying to provide a subscriber system within the town and use the power as a town to try to, get an affordable rate. Or if someone calls a company that you could be a subscriber to pick up your trash on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. And I know most of the people that I've talked to, or I've been told that use a private subscriber base, not town related, in different towns pay a lot more.
Oh, sure.
Really have a decent program. We'd like to continue it.
Yep.
All right, so we've got the, what was the yearly 339?
so you mean the, Harvey contract?
Yeah,
So for this second extension year coming up, it's gonna be 337,652.
that's the trucking portion. That's
That's just to pick up the trash.
right.
Correct.
EL Harvey is in the trucking company business, basically. Transportation.
And I'm just guessing that, because this is where I guess you kind of, the guesstimating part, the disposal aspect, because tonnage is a kind of taking an average, best average. She budgeted in on our FY 2023 budget, number 144,000
For tonnage,
for
for disposal.
which basically represent tonnage and
Yeah, hit me again, 100?
144,000 units. And then, of course, the other element that I think also gets factored in is trash administration, which is 4,000. So just so you know,
So 4,000, is that like what we pay out to Kelly Ryan?
therein lies a good question, because I'm not sure how that breaks down. It's just called trash administration. And I believe it was factored in as part of the overall. It was factored into trash disposal numbers, because there was an example here that I came across that passed around. Kind of as a reference to 2020 and 2021. Where Missy had listed down the tonnage on those particular months.
Say that again?
So if you're looking on the left side.
Yeah.
That's a reference to months between 2020 and 2021.
Okay, going up.
Yes, coming up, right. And then you can see the tonnage values that were applied in each of those months, the bills that we must have gotten.
Okay, so total amount is tonnage.
So like very top, July 2020.
Yeah, 190.79 tons.
Right.
It's 13,000, almost 13,800 is what the bill was.
Right.
All right, so that's how she comes up with. Okay, so I see we go 120,000. Then hazardous waste day, detail officer. Yes, you told us that's right. Those are the things that need to be backed out.
Yeah, especially in this case, this year. Because we're not gonna have hazardous waste. We have to back out that.
Well, I think she backs it out anyway. Because
Well-
it's not supposed to be on the backs of the subscribers,
Well, this would be
because it's open to the
It's
town.
open to the town, that's right.
Right, so hazardous waste day, the detail officer, the shops program. So that's 21,400 that needs to come out of, I would say, the 144.
Yeah,
Okay. And then we gotta take total subscribers and
Right.
total seniors.
and that's what I'm waiting on a confirmation on, so Dan Fire, he used, from the last billing cycle that we did November, we had, 1,850 customers per household.
1,850
Yeah,
customers.
yeah. And of those 1,850, 489 was senior discount. So it came down to, from a billing perspective, in that cycle, 1,361 were billed at the regular rate,
1,003,
361,
yeah. Greg,
yeah. And then 489 households were billed with the senior discount.
okay, now. We know we've added a bunch of subscribers with the new construction in town.
Correct. So I just don't know what the new potential number might be, assuming 1,850 that no one's dropping off. We're only going to see added people who wanted to add service.
Well, we know in the recent years, there's been 65 houses off of Northbridge Road alone.
Well, I'm going by, this is current as of,
This is current, okay.
this is as of the past bill that they just went out.
Okay, so yeah, that would, a big chunk of that would have already been.
Regarding the bill.
Bill, yeah.
So since this billing cycle, I guess the question would be how many more homes all of them said they needed to be on trash service?
Well, either that or how many more seniors are we giving a discount to?
Well, for Dan, he tells me that we have 400, which is kind of interesting, 434 senior discount applications submitted,
So less.
way less. And that could be for various reasons, you know. Your senior adjustments in housing might have been owned by a senior. Maybe it was a dip in that, you know, that category, that demographic, right? Or somebody forgot to submit their application. Good possibility.
Yeah.
Right? So from a senior discount application perspective, we're working with this moment 434. That's going to raise another discussion about senior discount that I have, because we have 25 that are in question with our requirement. And the one requirement that percentage of the applicants do not meet is the requirement of having submitted a census. So we're talking with Jack earlier today. I have to thank Ellen for this. Ellen, they got some information from Jack, and she's actually going to reach out to those people, let them know that if they're going to, they're going to want the discount, they need to submit a census form. And I'm assuming at this point, kind of talked about it before, about the program as a whole, we weren't necessarily going to change the program. So if somebody's not meeting the 4 base requirements that we specifically list, they don't get the discount. Assuming, correct?
Well, I'm gonna agree with that only because I know the census report has an actual function
Yes, it does.
and it has importance to the town.
As a whole.
In some cases, it, you know, can be state reimbursement money.
Grant money.
Yeah, so, and I know, I mean, my wife fills it out the minute it comes in the mail. So I know it's not difficult to fill out, especially if you filled it out the years before.
Yeah.
Because you're pretty much just reading the information. and
Yes,
signing
it's
it to make
correct.
Sure it's right.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a real tough requirement.
But you do have to, understand the demographic. That sometimes maybe at a certain point. What we might look at being a simple task. Might not, with the demographic, be as simple anymore.
Good point.
That's all I'm saying. So. But unfortunately, nonetheless, we've kind of outlined.
Yeah, see, I'm actually glad you brought that up because that would be something I would discuss with Amy at the senior center. Because that's a perfect thing for the senior center to help seniors with if they have a difficulty.
Right.
I mean, and that's why we have the senior center and all the programming down there. I mean,
We want to give them this benefit.
absolutely.
What can they do?
So I know there's a program called, I believe, the Shine program that works out of a lot of senior centers.
Okay.
And they help a lot of seniors with like filling out some of the insurance things that they need to do as they get older in order to get, the benefits or select the right insurance. So usually it's other seniors that have the knowledge.
Right.
Capability and they volunteer to help their fellow seniors.
Yeah.
I know, pretty sure it's called the Shine program and I know it's pretty big in Milford. Now, it might not be as big here, but I'm sure there are seniors down there that have expertise that would be more than happy to help other seniors.
Yeah,
And it just makes the senior center more valuable.
I agree.
And actually, the definition of senior that Amy works under is 60. I did too. Hey, I gotta get down there. I gotta look at those expansion plans. I gotta find out where they're putting. I gotta find out where they're putting the mini bar. Are you guys doing any ground swimming pool?
Where's your permit?
Hey, we have.
But yeah, they use 60 as a reference. So
Interesting.
yeah, which I did. That was pretty.
No, I actually. Insurance companies, and I was trying to get her to volunteer for the Shining program in Milford because I knew that, she had the knowledge and capabilities of, helping her fellow citizens.
That's a great program.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's a lot of things that, if you don't know how to navigate it.
Yeah.
That a helping hand is really big.
Yeah.
So.
So Jack, you can start to shine. That reach out to Amy.
I will, no problem.
You
I'm
know,
gonna write it down.
Well, I mean, it helps everybody,
it does.
and I mean, they may, good point, there may be a senior that's apprehensive about asking for help.
This is true.
It's something that we find simple.
Yep.
And you brought up a good thing, they may not find it as simple, and unless someone offers, they may not ask.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that's a great point that you brought up, something that, because my wife takes care of it, I wouldn't think about it, I mean, I know some of the questions, dog license. Okay, how many pets do? But I do know that, it does and can be helpful to the town as far as revenue from the state, things like that.
So from the standpoint of our situation with what we have, we do have a percentage that currently are not meeting that requirement. Let's say at this point that we're able to apply discount to those folks. Now, that doesn't mean if down the road, if no one's successful with their communication, folks, do get those in, now we can't make a correction down the road for those individuals.
What I would probably do right now is, I would take our present seniors that have applied, that qualify, and I would actually add that number to it, just as a safety.
434, we're taking as the total number. Okay, so that's that.
Okay.
The way you phrased it was number of senior discount applications submitted.
Okay. Yeah, I was,
So I'm taking that. as a whole.
okay,
I'll recheck to make sure he's just not talking about ones that he sees past the criteria.
okay. Yeah, because I mean, basically, if you know, Avi's contract price, the amount that has been budgeted minus off those items,
Yeah,
right, I mean, we can do it right now. Right, if we take 337,652, gonna go to ELI.
and actually, and I think this is what Missy would do, and rightfully so, to give a little, cushion. Her proposed budget, because she knew what was coming,
Right,
her proposed was around, she rounded it to 338,000
for ELI.
for the year. line.
Okay, so if we take 338,000.
Yeah.
Now we take that 144
Yeah,
and minus off what, 21,4?
you have to take off 15,400 detail. And,
6.
well, the other 6 that was on this document was the shop container medical.
Right,
That's still part of this bullet.
well, yeah, but it's not part of subscribers. It's open to the whole town. Just like hazardous waste day, it's open to the whole town.
It's funny, we never actually talked about backing that piece up. We
What?
talked about backing out hazardous waste.
Oh, no, I thought we talked about those.
The shops as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because it's open to anybody in town that wants to get a container.
It is.
It's not just on the subscribers.
I got you, you're right. You're right. So to be
So-
fair to just the subscribers. we
So you
gotta
take 144 and you minus off 21,4.
21,4? Yep.
$44 minus 21,4. So that's 122,6. Two six plus 3. 460,600.
What about the trash admin category? $4,000?
Then that would get added on.
I think it gets added.
Yeah, I just, my only question is what does that cover? And I'm gonna assume that probably covers, because you got postage, you got, what we pay Kelly Ryan to generate the bills, and I thought I heard that was a couple K.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Maybe it was 1,200 billing cycle or something. So,
When you figure from a postage standpoint, I was using a raw number.
yeah,
Using the 1850, if it didn't change. it
Yeah.
came about $600 from the postage perspective.
okay.
But so it's in the scheme of things.
All right, so if we get 460,600.
Okay,
Okay, let's add it. All right. Presently, we have 1,850 total customers.
that was total.
Okay, yeah. So I see,
Last quoted, the last billed cycle from November had a total of 18.
so 1,361,
Got the regular rate.
1,361 got the regular.
Yeah.
And then
489
got a half rate,
got the discount rate.
so 490, so that's 245 at full rate. Yeah, 245 and 245 is 490.
All right, lost me.
Okay, seniors pay half rate.
Right,
I'm converting them to full rate customers. So I'm dividing 490 by 2.
well, they're included in the 1850 already.
Right, but I did 1361 at full rate.
Yeah, okay,
So now I'm converting 490 into full rate customers by dividing by 2.
Oh, you're just trying to get the dollar value?
Right.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Now, do we use the 490 or do we use what Dan gave you?
I think we have to use the most current figure we have.
All right, so we
It's the
use-
most relevant.
So we're gonna use,
But that assumes that Dan did include even the ones that were at a census question. I believe he did,
all right, so let's just say we use 490.
or 450.
Well, why don't we go with what we had? If we go with 490, that equals 245 full subscribers.
Well, 490
Because we want to come out ahead, not minus.
What we're getting at is,
Not that we're trying to make money.
well, the 490 represented what happened in November.
Right.
So we have to look at what's happening now.
All right, so-
in the future.
What's Dan's total number right now?
So we'll say 435, around, give it a fairly round number. This represents his application count, the discount side.
Okay,
And if we were to use 1850 as the last known number of households that were built completely in the program, which is from November, or we'd have to assume there were some ads between November and now. How many, was it 10 households, was it 20 households? That's the unknown.
okay, so that's why I'm saying my first thought
Yeah.
is to use the 1361 as full subscribers,
Okay,
take the 490 that's seniors from last information we had, not the ones that Dan has in his hand that we don't know whether that includes the people that qualified or
Yeah.
the people that haven't filled out the census.
okay.
Let's just go by a last known number. Take
Okay.
that 490, cut it in half and call it 245
But 245, are you,
at full rate. So I'm
but
taking,
245, is that representing development?
no, a
This is
number of
Okay.
clients.
Okay, number of clients.
So I'm taking 1361 and I'm gonna add 245. That would equal 1606 full subscribers,
But why are you taking half of the senior number?
because they only pay half rate. So they only count as a half.
Um,
I'm converting them to full subscribers.
so, well, I'm thinking in terms of taking the total number of households altogether and working the other direction.
Okay, so I'm coming up with a total number of full subscribers.
So in your calculation, what do you come up with as the breakdown?
Well, that's what I'm curious to see, because
So-
remember, we had a conversation that
Right.
if we find the way that we're thinking about how this has to run, because we haven't done it before. If we find that the number is way off, we know that we're missing something. If we find that the number's pretty close, we know that we're on the right track. We
Okay,
might not have it fine tuned.
Yeah.
But we know that we're in line. We're
Yeah.
just maybe, so if I take 1606. That'd be.
and again, this is where that budget element,
Yeah.
that I talk about. We're not trying to exactly hit receivables and expenditures from a dollar value. We're trying to just make sure budget wise, what's the budgeting as a department is gonna cover theoretically the bills.
Give it limits.
Receivables coming back.
Yeah,
I come up with 287.
Wow. As the regular bill rate
Annually.
annually, that's correct. It's only $1 more than last year.
Which, it has fluctuated a couple of bucks.
It has. And that's-
So-
it's expected actually that.
Hopefully Missy's listening and she's gonna call us if I'm way off.
Well,
God bless her.
the expectation would have been that there would be a bump. Because we knew that there'd be an increase in the tonnage rate. And we knew the contract for this coming year would. Actually, in comparison to last year, was a $10,000 difference. Last year, it was 327,818. This coming year, it's gonna be 337,652. So we knew, and the whole contract represented increases every year anyway. So we knew we were gonna see an increase. I guess the question was gonna be, how would those monetary increases increases in both the trash costs for E.L. Harvey, the disposal costs from Wind Waste, against how many people we had in the program, how would that per household number come out?
Yeah,
The interesting thing is though, if you take $10,000 and divide it by total number of subscribers, and that's just a $10,000 increase in the E.L. Harvey portion, that comes up to $622 per subscriber. So you would think that based on that information, that the annual subscriber price would go up at least.
that's what I was thinking.
That's why I just did this, because I'm saying, that's good. Let's see. So I don't. We could be missing something.
You said it only went up like almost $1 for each subscriber?
Well, last year's bill, that we know, it was $286. And the regular rate was $143. That's twice a year. And then, because that's covers the whole year, so $143 per cycle. So that $286 was from last July to December,
Okay,
and then January to June. Right out of it now. So the next billing will be for the next July to December and January to June, what we're trying to figure out. So last year's fiscal, 286 for the year, split 43 per billing cycle, because they get bills twice a year. And the seniors paid half of that 286
okay.
as their total for the year, so 72 per cycle. Right? I got the math right?
Wait a minute, did I do something? 64. Mistake.
So I was thinking of it in the reverse, where you take this whole number of households. And then this is where at the moment, we'd have to assume nothing's changed. So let's assume.
Yeah, see.
250.
I made a mistake.
I was gonna let you find it.
I wrote down the $4,000 for administrative, but I didn't add it to my total number. So I just came up with 289.
Okay. Which is.
So we're still in the,
$3.
We're in line.
you know,
We should see it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but the only thing we don't, that 7107 is last year's tonnage rate.
It's against that fiscal year. So based on historical numbers that we're seeing, seems like although one year was less than $1 between fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020, it only jumped 81 cents. So, but the other years, it was like a couple of dollars. So we don't know. Currently, right now, we're being billed 7107 per ton. What's the number for the fiscal year 2023? Is it maybe only another $1? Is it another couple?
But however, you said that Missy budgeted for 144.
She did. That's why I think that's what we should use.
And that's what we did
And that's
use.
that's what we used. Because that's how we budgeted already. This has
Right.
already been submitted. This is already on the books as being.
Right.
So
Well, I mean, 289 makes sense.
it absolutely does make sense.
You said we were at 286. The only question I have in my mind is the math that we just did with that $10,000 increase for E.L. Harvey. Why isn't it going up at least $6?
exactly.
Now, the only thing I can think of is number of subscribers. Is dividing it over more shoulders or less shoulders,
Oh, from the year before?
right?
We probably gained in a year's time a few more subscribers.
Okay.
We were probably in the we might have been in like this high 1700.
All right, so because that would make a difference. When you divide the total of more shoulders,
Yeah,
it's going to drive the rate down.
correct.
However,
Costs went up a little bit. So that's kind of even out the amount of money.
but when this was budgeted number was drawn up, did it take into account the additional tonnage that those new subscribers, those new shoulders were gonna support?
Well, it probably didn't take into account the household number. But I'll bet it took into account, assuming like you suspect that there's already a number that was already in the agreement somewhere that she knew about. And then used what she felt probably be the best average to get to the 144.
Okay. So
That makes sense.
So 289 could really be a pretty good
A
number,
real number.
you know, because that.
Yeah.
289. That's gonna bring in 464,134. Which is only,
How does that compare to what was calculated out as the total cost of the programs? Budget
I've got 464,600.
Okay.
Now, we're not taking into account, and I thought this, well, no, trash stickers. And I thought at one point the trash stickers brought in like 10K.
Really?
Yeah, they bring a lot of money.
Wow, I didn't realize that much.
So even if you add, if you take 464,134 and just add 5K to it, we're bringing in more than that 464,600.
But the trash stickers, they're not factored into the cost for the categories that we're concerned about to get the bill rate.
Well, yeah, but trash stickers have to pay for tonnage.
No, it's
They
revenue.
don't have to, they don't, right, but it's revenue that helps pay for the program,
No, what I'm getting at is it's revenue,
right?
but it's because it's an unknown, it wouldn't be factored into our numbers for determining bill rate.
Right,
Right.
agreed. However, I started with 464,600
Okay,
as E.L. Harvey, Wheelabrator, and then added the 4,000 administrator, we came up with 464,600.
okay.
Now, when I just took the 289 and multiplied it by 16 users,
1606.
yeah,
Total number of users would be 18.
no, because the seniors,
Oh, you're taking the rate.
right, the seniors only count as half a subscriber.
Okay,
So 1606, if everybody paid full rate. So I come up with 46,000. Which is a little shy of the 464,600.
yeah. Then what about the amount that's coming in from the seniors?
No, that's included.
So,
All right. I took 1361 regular subscribers, which is the portion of regular subscribers from that 1850.
okay, you say 1606, it's fine.
1361 regular.
Okay,
Then we said that we had 490 at senior rate.
okay,
So I'm converting senior rate to full subscriber rate,
and then adding the two together
right? By dividing the 490 in half.
to get your 16 number. Okay.
So
So I guess the question is 490 the number we want to use because the current number we're dealing with is 435 on the senior discount.
right, but I'm gonna say that we need to account for new people that are gonna jump on in the 12 months. We don't know, so there has to be a little bit of there has to be room for growth. And that growth is gonna do two things.
I see.
That- That's why I'm comfortable using that last year number, because growth is gonna do two things. Growth in the program is gonna bring in money. It's also gonna increase tonnage.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So how do you account for that? Now, the trucking fee, E.L. Harvey's not gonna go up, because that's fixed.
That's fixed.
Right,
But the amount of tonnage that these new subscribers are gonna generate has to be paid for. So there has to be room in your number to cover that expansion.
Wouldn't that have been factored by the number of 144,000? Because that's what you put against fiscal year 2020.
I don't know.
Well, it is, it's listed as a line item fiscal year
Right.
2023.
But I don't know. And I may be overthinking it. I'm thinking it like I'm pricing on a job.
You think you're overthinking, I'm thinking something different in my head.
Okay, I'm thinking it like I'm pricing out a job for someone. And that job's not gonna take place for 2 years. And I need to put it in a bid. I need to account for everything possible. Now, I want the job. But I wanna make money at it too.
Yeah,
Well,
I want this program to work at the least amount of money per subscriber,
right.
but I don't wanna come up short.
Well, we don't want to come up short, but we want to be, like I said, Jack, I said to Jack, I said, my view is, I think in general, our view is government should be a zero-sum game. But when you're dealing with guesstimates, it's better to
be over a little,
be on the plus side.
yeah.
Than to come back and say, oh, I gotta, I think the phrase I was using before was, having to submit a bill the prior year type of a situation. So you're a little bit over. And this is where the portion part of guessing comes in with the tonnage. Just don't have it exact, right? But you're right, you don't want to come up short.
Well, that's why I'm comfortable, even though this year's senior applications are a little less, I'm
Yeah.
comfortable using that overage because what did you say Dan has, 400?
434.
All right, so if we call it 435
Yeah.
and I'm calling it 490 based on history.
Okay,
So 90 minus 35 is 55.
Yeah.
So let's just say those 55, let's say, we end up with half a dozen more seniors, 20 more full subscribers.
gotcha.
I'm leaving room for some growth.
Yes, and I'm not, I wasn't factoring people that can come along and need to jump into the.
Right, but it's a 12-month period.
But the people that might jump on from a senior perspective would have been originally regular bill payers. And then they just ended up getting over that 65 mark. And so now they're just gonna be paying less.
You don't think seniors are gonna locate in Mendon because it's such a great time?
No.
You have the people moving in that are seniors.
Oh, okay. Oh, new people coming in to see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I will say Amy, it was interesting. Amy, was a presentation 2 or 3 weeks ago that Amy had done at the senior center. She estimated that percentage at the senior level was almost 25%.
Wow.
But I think that was probably based on 60, this as opposed to 65. Only because that's what they work with. That's what the in my head, I was thinking was specified. But that nonetheless, that's a pretty large number of that demographic. I think especially for a town the size, which is not a bad thing.
$5.56 a week.
Yeah, it's like nothing, right?
You get to put out 4 barrels.
Yeah.
What do you
For a
get?
couple bucks more
What do you
than
get
that,
for a
yeah.
couple of bucks?
We're now eating.
But a lot of that has to do with that group of towns that Missy was part of that negotiated that 10-year agreement
Correct, which is a great day.
and our relationship that's grown with ELR.
Correct.
Again, talk about overthinking. Well, so if a resident turns 65 in November after they already paid off their first half of the trash bill, do they not have to pay the second half? Or sorry, because you turned 65 in this fiscal year, you have to wait till next fiscal year to go to the senior discount?
So the way we've been, I think we determined we addressed that is if we had a situation come up a couple of years ago. If somebody submits an application in the middle of the cycle's already started.
Yep.
We're gonna apply that discount on the next bill instead.
Okay.
So the next time the bill goes out, their discount will apply.
Okay.
We had a situation that I presented to where an individual had applied for the discount before the cycle started, this current cycle, got the bill in the mail, and then realized she qualified for the discount. submit the application well before the cycle started. So at that particular time, we made the allowance that we're going to apply the discount for that person to cover both periods.
Okay,
Because of the time they submitted, yes, the bill was generated for the 143. They qualified for the discount. Paperwork came in well before the service started, but it came in during the time when typically vacations kick in. And I don't think the paperwork was seen until after the first year. And then the service already started. But the understanding was, based on what I had been told, was the discount would be applied. So in that situation, we agreed to apply that discount. So basically, that individual is coming billing cycle will see a zero balance. Because they already paid the 143. But because the discount bill should have applied to both, it would have been 72 each one. They already paid the both cycles in the one check they sent. So we're gonna make a zero balance for the next bill. So the 143 they paid, basically amounts to the 72 and 72.
big
The
enough.
point that was made was that we just wanted to make sure we treat everybody the same. But the differentiating mark was the trash service having not started yet versus the service already started. We don't want to necessarily get into to try to prorate this for somebody, 2 weeks into the service, sends a thing and try to figure out. It's very difficult to do that.
Yeah.
But we respect the fact, that you turn 65 and we want to give you the discount. But for ease of purposes from the billing and the way things kind of flow, we're going to apply that in the next cycle of the trash next time.
You can't buy a program.
That dollar, that's
Okay.
phenomenal.
So, I mean, you're already getting pretty much the best there is.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's why we work so hard. Because all these subscribers are our neighbors. So, I mean, we're just trying to do the best we can for the community.
Right.
And again, we've been very fortunate because of the network.
Yeah.
And the group of towns that got together and negotiated some of these things. And again, the relationship with the Al Harvey that's developed.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can continue to do those things because we have to discuss the future with the Al Harvey.
Out of curiosity,
Out for bid.
144,000, just to, we can reverse mathematize this. What would that represent on the bill rate? From ton of trade per ton? If you're gonna go backwards with that, it would be basically be dividing 144,000
144,000.
by 12 for each month.
Okay, divided by 12. It's 12,000. Should have been. It's 12,000 per month.
So thinking that maybe an invoice at max from Wind Waste would be $12,000. $12,000.
Right. And if we divide that by 71.7, it's 168.84. So call it 169 per month.
Right. And that,
And what are you seeing for tonnages on that stuff?
well, like you pointed out, I think we have the seasonal jump. So for example, 2 sample bills that I have, one was from covered March. Tonnage was 155.75.
Okay.
And the next one from April was 111,
So less than,
less than March. So like I said, it's probably times when,
well, and even less than what I'm seeing for an average.
but in addition here too, I did get some information that kind of gave a rundown of almost a full year and a half for 2021 that came from our Wind Waste.
Okay, so if I'm looking at, oh, here it is, total tons. This is total tons by the week.
Correct, for that each month.
Okay, so I'm just,
Oh my God, I forgot about.
So we just said 144, that was $12,000
Dollars per month,
per
theoretically,
month, dollars.
in dollars.
And it was 168 ton per month.
We were using that 71.
Right.
Right.
So if I look at this and I take that somewhere. Let's go to June.
To Alan's point, he's probably right. It's probably periods of time when people are disposing of trash or time to get another.
What do you think? So
Spring,
spring, summer, fall, yeah.
right? If there's some people gonna stay in, it's just gonna be the regular normal trash.
Yeah, that's what I think.
We have a good time.
Yeah, I got 105.5 a month,
Okay,
just taking, 4 weeks.
okay,
But I mean, those are 4 weeks that are in the mid-20s.
yeah,
I'm looking at August 28th, we had 30.52 ton
okay,
in 1 week.
yeah,
And I see a bunch of 29s,
yeah,
and then I see a 19 and a 16 and a 19, a 17.
okay. That's the other thing, we just for whatever reason, require them to meet them. Say another year. Just,
Now I'm seeing, okay, this looks like a 40-week period, maybe. It says 40 items total reported.
Oh, that might have been the partial. I think one covers a year's worth and the other one covers a half a year.
Yeah, this is January 21st. Oh, okay, I see where, January 21st to December 30th, 21, okay.
Like 60 something items.
Yeah, 67 items. Looks like almost, 1,700 ton. Yeah, and then the other one, you're right, the other one is basically a 6-month period. And there's 1,000 ton.
Yeah.
But I would say, based on that subscriber number, we're definitely on track.
I think the 289 is a good number.
Like I said, my only concern is when I think about that $10,000 number,
Yeah.
that should alone add $6. We're only up by what, 3?
Well, you gotta remember that was over the course of a year. So what kind of growth happened in that year? So in 2021, how many subscribers actually got billed versus the number that could have had a lot of people, that amount of time that divvied up, that shared the load
Mm-hmm.
and reduced the overall. So if everything stayed the same, I'd say you're probably right, we should have seen more of a $6.
Mhm.
But if you had more people jump into the program to share the load, especially when the next billing cycle came around, see where the reduction might have happened.
Yeah.
So that's $6.
You don't have to be a subscriber to get the trash stickers, correct?
You do not, because they're cash, and you also don't have to be a subscriber to recycle. Anyone can recycle. Which is, I got a feeling that come my next contract cycle next year. it's gonna change. The carriers like the RVs and stuff are hanging on, what they agreements, but I think these agreements. Yes, a significant increase.
Good. So I was thinking, I think my trash bill is a lot more expensive than what Mendon is paying. But I think we're paying for both trash and recycling. You know, hard to go.
So it's kind of interesting, you know, municipal agreements can be very time.
Yeah,
We've been very fortunate what we had in play, dealing with it initially with Republic, for many years, and then over to Harvey. Consistency there was, we've been fortunate to have the same individual representative. who's to be one, and move to the other, access me.
Yeah.
He's like,
He's a
he's
guru.
like a guru. He's a guru.
He knows trash.
Yeah.
Side out. Because we know this thing, this change is coming.
Yeah.
I mean, just in the national. Let's just still hope that we still have the size and the fact it's a municipal contract. Won't be too bad,
yeah,
that's all.
Well, we've been advised over the years, depending upon who we've been with, that it appears that negotiating with who you have versus going out to contract can usually be a little more beneficial. We've been advised that a lot of times when a town just says, that's it, we're going out to contract, that even your current carrier is gonna go up more than if you stick with them.
yeah,
Something about the loyalty. factor
Yeah.
can come.
loyalty goes a long way.
Well, and the fact that, you know, they want to keep their business,
Yeah,
but on the other hand, they need to make money at it, just like any other business in order to survive.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times these companies know who they're bidding against or who's gonna be interested in bidding on their work. And they're an enterprise that, you know, has to make money. Trucks are expensive, drivers are expensive.
Diesel's outrageous.
Yeah, so they, you know, sometimes when you go out for bid, they see an opportunity, just like any other enterprise, to, you know, get what the current market is versus, all right, I'm gonna keep this customer, I'm gonna, you know, not have to go through a lot of hassles to be up with a 5-year contract. I'm gonna have 5 years, I'm gonna have them, we're gonna have a mapped out progression of fees. I don't have to make it all in year one.
Yeah,
I can separate it out. And for like the town of Mendon, you get one truck and one driver. Truck's gonna last, and how many years they can get out of it. You got one driver who reports here. for his
Wait,
whole-
you have one driver that does the whole entire town?
Bill.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like having your favorite mailman show up.
Exactly.
Or mailwoman
And
show
that's,
up every day.
and that's ultimately the bottom line. We've had tremendously good customer service relationship. Every sure hiccup here and there. But overall, it's been a great program, it's been a great relationship. And to me, that would be probably the base reason why somebody might consider going elsewhere, because they haven't been happy.
Yeah.
I'd have to say, from my perspective, I've been very happy.
Well, I don't mind there being hiccups,
Yeah, it happens.
because that's life.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's how they're taken care of.
it's how you handle, it. Not that you have a problem, but how you handle. it.
Right, and I know a lot of times when, you know, especially in the absence of having someone in the office, when I've had to answer a trash complaint, so to speak, the people are just looking for service.
That's all.
So if you're willing to listen to their situation and help them find a solution, they're all good,
Jackson, he's listening.
you
Oh
know?
my God, like 20-minute phone calls, like, all right, so your point is, your trash gonna get picked up, well, didn't get a phone call.
Yeah, no, I took one and, you know, as we talked about it, we came to the conclusion why the trash wasn't picked up. And it was winter time. So snow doesn't help.
Yeah,
And you know, I don't know how many times I've seen it, you know, people put out a 35-inch TV box. Well, your conduit is supposed to be 2x2.
yeah,
It jams the machine.
Oh, it's too late.
Thought it was 2x2, but I know the reason why. So mine might not all be 2x2, but I know that they gotta be broken down.
Yes, right.
They gotta be flat and they can't be too big or they jam the machine. And then Bill's gonna unjam it. Well, that just takes time away from everyone. And if you can't achieve it, then you can't pick up. So, you know, a very simple rule to follow.
Yeah.
And I could see by driving down the street, I don't know how many times I've stopped and said, hey, by the way, I'm on the board now. Just want to let you know that most likely your car didn't get picked up. This is why. Oh, yeah, I used to live on the other side of town. We should move that. Honest to God, that, and it happened that this person's brother was a select,
Oh, boy.
that I, you know, but, you know, he got lazy.
Yeah.
And, you know, it didn't get picked up.
Happened to me a couple of times where you get comfortable with the schedule. That's supposed to regular driver and he does it with a certain rate. So you get comfortable, even though you tell people it doesn't have to be out by 7 AM. I said, you get comfortable knowing when those have to buy. So shake a little bit like I have on Wednesday morning. Let's not get in until 9 o'clock or 9:30. I know I have a couple hours in the morning. If I don't get it up Tuesday night, put it up. But of course, that's been me a couple of times because I don't. The fill's not there. But I know it's still not on because somebody came by at a different time, picked it up and said 8 o'clock. It's not done, lost on the job.
He's on vacation.
Yep, it happens. So do you think that with what we've calculated out, that at the moment, 289 is a pretty good bill rate that we can pass along to put into ABS?
I think the number's in line.
Okay,
I just, because I've never done it before.
Yeah.
That's my only apprehension.
well, what would alter your thought?
Well, like I said, I'm still kind of stumbling on the fact that that $10,000 that the contract price went up for the
Yeah.
trucking portion.
Yeah.
Divided by the number of users means that we should have gone up $6. Just to cover that one element.
Well, that assumes though no growth on the customer side.
I agree, but
Right.
as we said, growth on the customer side brings in revenue.
Yeah.
And expense. It brings in revenue to support the system, but there's an expense involved in that tonnage. So I guess that's where I'm just a little uneasy with it. And again, a lot of it's because I haven't done it before. So I'm hoping that I haven't missed anything because I don't want to end up short. But if we look at that number in comparison to history.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Right? We're going up $3 from the year prior. Contract, the trucking went up 10,000. We know what Missy budgeted for the tonnage. Math doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And we are leaving a little bit of room for growth because we're using last year's senior number, which is a little more than this year's potential senior. Going by the 490 versus the 435.
Which is actually, so we're kind of giving there by doing that, right?
Well, excuse me?
Aren't we kind of giving there a little bit by doing that, using that higher number from senior perspective because it's a discounted number? We're kind of giving a little bit there that, you know what I'm saying? Because if the real number now is 435, let's say, we're using 490, we're kind of giving a little something there.
So you mean we're overestimating the number of subscribers, which would be a higher revenue number,
Right.
right? We're caught, yeah, so that's not the way to go about it. We need to lower that number,
That's what I-
which will, yeah, okay, good point.
Right.
Right, so we need to think of the number being shouldered by less shoulders versus more. I'm leaving room for growth,
Yeah.
but we don't know if that growth is gonna be there.
All right, so let's say we did it in the reverse form. Let's say from a growth perspective, we added 25 homes.
At full rate,
Well, just households in general. So that our total household
yeah,
between November billing and now, it jumped by 25 households. That's probably higher than. Let's say we add 10 to that. 10 homes is probably a reasonable number. That might have jumped to the program since November and now. I could think of 5 off the top of my head. that came through to Tracy.
Yeah, she Applewood.
Right. So let's say we use 10. So if we did 10, that means we're dealing with a total household number of 1,860. Total households that get a bill, right? Of those 1,860, 435 are going to be senior discount.
Gotcha.
We're using those numbers. How do we calculate it?
So we got 1860, we're gonna subtract 435. So we end up with 1425 on the regular side. 435 on the senior side. So if we take 435 and divide it by 2, it's gonna be 218.
Yep, 218.
So we take 1425 and we add 218 to it. So that gives us 1643.
Okay,
So now if we take 1643. So if we take 464, 600. E.L. Harvey,
yep,
our tonnage,
yep.
after we minus off the 21. So that gives us, and we add the 4,000 administration. So we're at the 464. 1643, and it comes out to 283. So maybe that 289 is a damn good number.
Right. Because theoretically, there should be no way it should be less,
Definitely less.
you know, I mean, we didn't, if we had added like 25 or 50 more homes. Sure.
Yeah.
See that, it hasn't been that kind of an increase. Yeah, I mean, not in that short period of time. I don't believe. I mean, it's,
But see, we're taking, we're going from 1361 as
Yeah.
regular subscribers to 1425.
yeah,
So that's quite a few regular subscribers,
oh, yeah,
right? That's 39 and 25 is
64.
64. That's, that sounds like a lot of growth.
well, again, the difference was the numbers we were using between the 490 and the 435. 490 was last year. So
Right.
last one was like 435 is the current, based on current current submitted applications.
Right.
It just may be a case where either the senior element had adjusted, or it's possible some people who submitted didn't submit a form. So they may not get counted. Because of that, it's possible they, or,
Well, we could have had a lot of seniors moving on.
but maybe it doesn't seem to jive with what the view is of the level of demographic and category. But, you know,
Well, if we're, I mean, that's. I mean, usually it only goes up a couple bucks at a shot.
That's right.
And we're there, and we only have till Friday to make a decision.
pretty much, I mean.
Can I dial a friend?
Right, exactly. I mean, if we didn't have the 144 percent to the budget, say, I'd have to wait to get the final per ton number. Right, because it's gonna jump. We know it's gonna go up from 7107 to something. Just don't know how much. Because that was already factored in. And to your point, it might have been an already known number that Missy was aware of. Then took the average against that number to apply it to fiscal year 2023 to get to the 144. She's always been very good about
Right,
keeping the buffer
yeah,
and thinking ahead. Now we got it.
Right, and we did back out of that number. Hazardous waste day,
We back that up.
the shops program. And we haven't added in revenue from stickers,
No,
which we know is a considerable amount.
well, and again, we'd have to almost kind of add that as an add-on, because it's added revenue. Doesn't factor in against flying over.
Well, in a way it does, because that fee that we're collecting incurs an expense of tonnage. Does it incur an expense of trucking? Army stays the same. No matter how many stickers we sell,
Well, it can
but our
be,
tonnage can go up.
the tonnage could go up for the extra people that buy stickers. So basically, I see your point. People purchasing stickers means extra bags means extra tonnage, right? So I get that.
There's a
Theoretically,
cost.
our sticker cost is paying for that extra tonnage. $2 a sticker.
Right, and we've actually talked, or somewhere along the line, I know someone said something to me at one point about maybe it's time we looked at the price of our stickers
Correct.
and making an adjustment.
Right.
So we have that ability.
And maybe we do that all at once with the contract company.
The other thing to think about too is, if we were to come up a little short, I wouldn't feel terribly bad, because we know that we're picking up the town dumpsters.
True.
That's part of our program
Yeah,
and part of, what was negotiated with the LRB.
yeah.
So we wouldn't be stealing from anybody.
No,
Yes,
still give the service across the
Right.
board in the lecture.
if we were, because of our lack of experience in doing this, if we were to find that we came up a little short, no one's getting cheated,
Oh, no.
Yeah,
no, no.
which is our main concern.
Yeah.
So like I said, if we had to tell the town that, we had a bill of a prior year or we came up a little short, we can point to where that expense is.
And it probably would
And
be,
Tim is well aware of it.
and it wouldn't be in this case really, bill for prior years, being a bad example, because bills we see are going to be coming along on a regular basis.
Right.
So as they come in, they'll get paid in normal fashion
Right.
that they end up invoicing, right? So we'll start to see the track, we'll start to see the trend. As we start to see things come in, so if you want to track, the money's coming in against the expenses.
Right. Well, and that is a question, Jack, that we do occasionally ask. We may ask you what the current tonnage is. Is it higher or lower than last year? We do ask those questions because we like to know if we're on track.
Yep.
Or if there is an anomaly, we like to kind of figure out why there is.
I can do that.
So, that is we do pay attention to those things and make sure that we're staying, within what we budgeted. And again, if we're not, we want to know right away why we're not.
Okay.
And, different things can happen. You could have, a terrible weather event that could generate a lot of trash. Because, people experience damage to their property or whatever, and it's things that need to be disposed of through our trash system. It increased our tonnage.
I'm pretty comfortable with 289 myself.
All right, well, I say we go with it.
I think it's a good number. It's a reasonable number.
Yeah.
I think it covers the outline of what was budgeted.
In 12 months.
The expenses that we're seeing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we gotta get it done. And I would say that, based on the information that we have in front of us.
Yeah.
And the calculations that we did and the different ways we went back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't, I would say the number's as good a number as we're gonna get.
or 289 would be the regular rate for the year, divided by 2. And then
Do we want to make it 290 so it splits around easy?
So it's even. I think that's what traditionally they've done.
Okay, so we'll make it
They've
290.
taken the change out.
Get 290, so it'll be 145 for seniors.
So 145, right, annually,
Yeah,
correct. And when Alan breaks it down to that per barrel price.
Mhm.
It's like, heck of a deal.
oh, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Make it probably the second. So the private sector, because I've heard some outrageous pricing. People who do it privately.
And $5.58 a week.
I mean,
That's a nice coffee and a small tip.
Yeah,
That's right.
And I mean, that covers you for 200 pounds.
Have to at some point modify as our presentation of the trash program to how we currently word it to people. So, you know, how more recently, you know, Mike had talked about this, because of the changes they've made in the trucking, it kind of gone to the automation with the arms on the trucks and stuff. It's actually a benefit, their perspective, to have those, the larger.
Totals. No, 65.
65.
Yeah, 65 gallon
totals.
totals.
That the arms can come under the barrels and lift them.
that's what Bellingham does. That's what I have.
Right, so as opposed to your typical traditional 30-gallon ones,
Yeah.
which are typically round ones.
Round ones.
Guys have to get out.
Yep.
Vacuum. It's been a benefit to them and to the drivers, work perspective, to go to those 65s. I think we actually are still using old wording in our presentation
I believe we are,
that we never modified, talked about it.
right?
Just as a housekeeping item,
Mhm.
we may have to think about just a rephrasing of the presentation. Just as receiving people coming in on the other
Well, I
side.
thought there was talk that if we went to a fully automated system as negotiated with our contract, we were to do that, that the totals would actually be provided to the subscribers.
I mean, with that.
So they would all be the same size, they would all be the same color.
Oh.
And there'd be no question
Right,
as to you're allowed two,
that's what you do.
Yeah, Bellingham.
and that the truck can pull right up
Yeah.
and empty. Because they're all the same. And that's what you put out. You don't put out anything else.
You might be right. And
Yeah, that was-
aside from the additional ones that we're still gonna get the allowance for additional,
Well, no, they're not, because when
or you're talking about bringing that in.
you're going from a 30 gallon to a 65 gallon.
Oh, right,
So you're going to two.
Rephrase it now as 430 gallons.
Right.
Plus you could add 4 more.
They'd be on the stickers.
The stickers.
Yeah.
So what Alan's saying is now if you go to 265s, that takes away the component of any extra bag at all.
I don't know how that would
Is
work.
that what you're thinking? Take away the stickers.
Because if you fill your two totals, you're done.
Because right now with Bellingham, I have a trash tote and recycling tote. And I think I could buy Bellingham stickers for extra trash bags outside the barrel for my trash bag out.
So they give you that allowance.
Yes.
So that had to be something we have to see what we. I mean,
Right.
it's,
Well, I mean, you could still have the stickers for the bags, but that slows down the automated process.
it would, but you're right. So that's gonna come out of conversation, new negotiation for the next contract. What E.L. Harvey's gonna bring to the table in terms of their perspective versus what you might wanna do for our residents.
Well, and the other thing, you know, is this whole recycling world,
Yes,
which is not working,
not working well.
you know, because we all want to encourage people to recycle. We know recycling is good, but it has to be good quality recycling in order for it to be utilized.
Yep.
It's something that constantly evolves.
And that's the big problem is the quality. What happened 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
A lot of our recycling went offshore to China. They actually utilized it
Okay.
So we sent a lot of our stuff over there and there was a use for it. About 4 years ago, 4 years ago, China came out with what was called the National Facility Policy. Where at the time, prior to this new policy, they had an acceptable level of contamination on a load. It's basically every load has some contamination. And they essentially lowered the rate so low. It was like
They're like less than 1%.
0.5, that they basically made it virtually impossible for anyone to pass.
Yeah,
So what basically happened, what basically China was saying is, we'll take your recyclables, but we don't want you to recycle.
Yeah.
So that changed everything. So they now, basically the cargo ships basically turn around, bring the stuff back without it,
in the ocean.
which I would
I know.
assume, but
Yeah,
Anyway, what happened was, so a lot of these companies then began to stockpile and stuff. You know, when it wasn't going anywhere. But then what eventually happened was they could only stock so much, and then what happened is, you know what? We have no more room, we gotta start putting it somewhere, so then we'd end up going into it. And when it wasn't supposed to be, because they had no choice, so there's a lot going on behind the scenes with regard to recycle, so as much as we want to encourage people to recycle, and they think it's working, right now, in our country, it's not working.
it's not working.
It's not working. Now, does it make for an opportunity for businesses to, or for an industry to ramp back up here in this country? Possibly, that takes time.
Yeah.
That takes capital. You just can't start out one of those necessarily, unless you have the ability to convert something. Something that's some factory that's doing something now, to handle that. But I would see it's a potential handle. So, still kind of.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, we use a lot of consumable things, single use. Yeah, I mean,
Guilty.
it's convenient.
I'm guilty. I should have a reusable.
Yeah,
This is the big.
so we generate a lot of traffic.
Yep.
I mean, I know we've been approached about composting at different times. And I know there's a company in Massachusetts, Black Earth maybe, that does a lot of composting and they like love pizza boxes, which it's like,
yeah, I was telling Tom, like, I didn't know that, when he told me that, sales tax box.
Because.
well, they can oil.
The ones, yeah,
Yeah, that contaminates the cotton. But I know this recycling company has at least 2 or 3 facilities in Massachusetts. And I know a garden center in Hopkinton that actually sells their compost bagged. And they actually, they subscribe to this company to come out and they have a coffee house. And I think it's like $17 every 2 weeks to pick up like a 35-gallon container of coffee grinds.
oh, wow,
Because coffee grinds are 100% compostable.
yeah,
So it's an expense, but he knows he's doing the right thing.
yeah, I agree.
So we have to figure out how to balance the expense and the right thing. I know that I personally think recycling should be taught in school. Because if you teach and make it normal, then it's automatic. It's like wearing seatbelts. If you grew up wearing a seatbelt, it's a no-brainer to wear a seatbelt. If you grew up jumping around at mom and dad's station wagon like I did, you had to learn to wear a seatbelt. So I really think it should be taught every year as part of like an earth science class in school. Because I know, like, I have nieces and nephews that tell my mother-in-law, oh no, we need that can be cleaned, we can put that in the recycling. Because they know.
Yeah,
But again, we have to do the work to make sure that the recyclables good quality.
Right.
You know, and it, like with our program, styrofoam isn't on the recyclable list, even though it has a stamp underneath it. We don't recycle styrofoam, it's not part of our program. So even things that are recyclable, if it's not part of your program, you have no choice.
yeah,
But I mean, it's something we could get better at over time. it's taught to the younger generations. Time will tell.
Yep.
In the meantime, we have to try to give our subscribers the best program we can.
And I think we do that. You know, I hope it continues.
All right.
All right.
It's like 9:42. Real quick, hazardous waste day is not gonna happen.
Yeah, did you skip over tobacco enforcement? Anything on that?
Well, tobacco enforcement, I think we really need AJ and we need to vote. If we're gonna
Gotcha. Okay.
interact with, Joan Hamlet
Yep.
out of Lemonster. And was it Jody? I have to look, but the young lady that she has in this area, already working,
Jody Brigetti.
okay, yeah,
Yep, you're right.
so, I think we really need to take some kind of an action as a full board.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's an FYI, we kind of tobacco enforcement. You know, where they get involved going to the places in the community, and basically kind of testing them, basically staying. Overall, we're very fortunate. We have very responsible business owners every now and then we catch somebody.
Yeah.
It's not so much really about mining. It's about just it's about correcting the action. For the most part of people are very responsive. We've had one or two that still seem to get the message. So we have to do something with it.
Yeah.
More, you know. But we think it's keeps that, checks and balances. Keep them honest.
Yeah.
In place that they know we're doing it. The community knows no one's checking. Could probably get by.
Let's think it through.
Yeah.
Yeah, this group was very good. They have
Yeah.
a large educational part of their program. They really, want to prevent any violations, so that goes in line with what you think. So they were very good, but I think we need a full board, especially when AJ is so passionate about that topic.
Oh, yeah, he's very thrilled.
All right, so we'll go to hazardous waste day. That's not going to happen this year,
Right,
right?
can happen.
And we have no future dates with that company for,
I've had no updates since our last meeting, so we're still.
so I would say that, in the next few months, after you get more acclimated, that may be something that we would have you work on. Researching companies that come out to do a hazardous waste day like we've had Clean Harbors do in the past. See if there are any other companies out there
And just as an
that come
FYI,
to us.
yeah, just as an FYI, follow-up from the last meeting, I mentioned to the board that I had reached out to the Harvest. And so far, no call back. And the reach out was twofold. It was find out about scheduling the next event, because we thought that maybe we need to get a jump on it. And earlier, we could schedule it, book ourselves at the time.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Then the other part was to see if they had any suggestions for an option. But crickets, so I haven't been back.
Yeah, they can't be the only one out there. I'm sure they've swallowed up any of the small guys in this area.
Right.
But maybe there's someone from a neighboring state
Right.
that would service us.
Mhm.
And we'll just have to find out,
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's, like I said, that at this point, that could be, when you're comfortable. All right, so the next thing would be,
Well, can I interrupt? Are we looking at September? If they do get somebody, like, well, what are you looking at?
So Dave, that kind of come up in conversation. It's thought to be the best time frame seasonal wise. What's your thoughts on the time? The only thought we were discussing earlier about time is thought that September was a good time because it's after summer, people accumulate a lot of those fertilizers and
full
things like that, pool chemicals. And they've been doing spring, summer projects, the paints and all that stuff would be a good time to catch them as opposed to earlier when they're just getting going. projects and they're not, haven't accumulated a lot. They don't have to hang on.
Yeah, I have no problem with September.
Okay.
And I mean, as far as, no, we had talked to see if we could still do the shredding, the Harvey.
Yeah, and I think we do want to do that.
Okay,
That's just gonna be a matter of us having a discussion directly with Mike.
okay,
Say, hey, Mike, we want to set up a shredding day.
yeah.
I imagine you're still gonna want to do it at the highway department.
Highway Department or Senior Center.
Or senior center could be an option, because we probably won't get the kind of traffic on shredding. day.
Right, and Senior Center does have that one way in, one way out. I don't know if that would help, but we could, we could kick that around.
Talk about
I mean, I wouldn't pass on that if that's all we can offer.
Oh.
I would still offer that. So that kind of goes into the next thing about discussing the contract extension for EL Harvey.
Yep.
At this point, I would be very comfortable having Jack reach out to Mike.
Already did.
it. Well, Jack has an update for you.
All right.
I reached out to him this past Monday to Mike SSPM. I sent him a letter saying that we are moving forward with the 1-year extension with EL Harvey. He's thrilled to have our business. And he did say that he was gonna come out and meet face to face to introduce himself. Hopefully that'll be this week or early next week.
Okay,
So
well, I'm even thinking beyond that. Okay, if we're gonna enter into that 1-year extension, I don't see any reason why we can't have a preliminary discussion about the future.
Agreed. Sure, I go into that.
Because obviously we have to make a decision as to whether we start negotiating with the Harvey or we go out to bid. And that process takes a while.
It does. Right?
So I think that especially if Mike's gonna come out,
Mhm.
I think that we engage in a preliminary discussion of what he sees the future being for, a 3-year with 2 1-year extensions like we just had.
Okay.
Feel about those,
Yeah.
and, because then the board has to make that decision. Do we just pursue EL Harvey or do we go out for bid? And that process, again, takes a while. So let's get it going.
So you're thinking like the summer?
Why not?
Okay, I'm open.
I mean, especially with the changes in EL Harvey ownership. I don't know if it's gonna be the same players that we already talked to. If it's gonna be a new group of players, and I wanna be prepared for what the numbers could.
Well, we do know that, from Mike's perspective, his time is coming to an end,
Right,
right? Is it another year? 2 years?
that's basically what I think I heard, year and a half.
So, because we would want to catch him, it has to catch him while he's part of the process, because he knows so much.
Right.
So valuable in that regard. Yeah,
Well, and also, if there's one familiar face on the other side of the table, it seems to make the room a little warmer.
Okay.
And I mean, we have no idea from 4 years ago where the numbers are today.
Right.
So I think we need to get some insight. I mean, can we expect a $10,000 increase from this year to next year? Or is it going to be a $20,000 increase? I mean, what's going to be the starting point of that 3-year with the 2-year extension?
Yep.
And is that even an option that people are able to negotiate today? They might say, well, we're only doing 3 years.
right. Oh, yeah,
I mean, obviously they know the trucking business
yeah,
because that's the business they're in. So, they might only be doing 2-year contracts.
Right.
It depends upon how volatile that world is. So we need to know, kind of if we stay with the EL Harvey, what direction we're going to go in.
Yeah.
Or if, the board decides to take a vote to go out to bid, where that may put us. So I don't think we need to wait.
so at this point, maybe have Jack have that reach out. to
Yeah,
Mike.
when Mike comes in,
I want to see if he was able to come to the next board meeting.
Why not?
fine with me.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
Because he was interested to find out yesterday when the next one was, and I said, it's tomorrow night. And he's like, oh.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that.
In May already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be the end of the month.
Sorry.
Yep, sounds good.
So the next thing would be the VNA contract. Have we gotten anything from the VNA?
Nothing yet. I can tell you that it was only just yesterday that I did a reach out to Sheldon McGovern, who is, I think at the time was the director, but I called her direct number and I actually heard her reading it. Was, and she's now the executive. She stepped up.
Yeah.
So I left her a message, just told her who I was, told her, hey, hi Michelle, it's Tom, I need more help. That time of year again. So just told her we're looking at, contract review mode. Want to see if you can send along your contract. I just followed that up with an email. So I haven't heard anything back from her yet. That was just yesterday. So the reach out's been placed. Now it's just a matter of hearing back. And then typically from a B&A perspective, typically look to see what the services are that they're going to be provided to the town. Typically the services really don't change too much. Although the COVID thing kind of came into play a lot with regard to some of the additional services they did for us.
Yeah.
That needed to provide. So we're not sure looking forward what that contract might look like. We know we did see a bit of a bump this past one, but that was kind of expected. There was some extra services involved. So we just kind of want to look at the contract, see the services. From a price perspective, reasons, reasonable price. What they're gonna provide. We've been with the VNA for years, forever, basically, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we actually had anybody before them,
You might be right. I mean,
unless we had a private person,
right.
which really, I think, as we've talked in the past, is our only alternative.
Right.
And I know at one point there was a name being passed around, someone might take us on.
As an individual.
Yeah,
Was that,
I can't remember who or where.
was she affiliated with Upton?
Could have been,
One of the towns.
yeah,
That did come up with conversation.
Yeah.
She's a nurse, I believe, could do the medical things that typically VNA does, which is basically going, blood pressure checks, home visits, type of things like that. In addition, they give also, sort of host with us.
Yeah,
the
flu clinic.
Annual flu clinic that we typically do. Which we, now are positioning ourselves, we do it up in Nisco.
Yeah.
Last couple of times at Nisco, the gym up there, the school, it's a school up the street. In the center of town, but we set up at the gym. They bring a team of people. We actually have a regular representative, just so you know, from the perspective, it's Ian Belmonte. She's a nurse and she's our representative between us and she's our contact.
Okay.
So if we have any need, it's awesome. We reach out to her.
Sometimes we, in the past, before COVID, we tried to do 2 clinics. We do one for the seniors at the senior
Yes.
center,
Thank you.
and then we're doing one in our office, actually.
We did one in our office a couple of years prior.
Yeah.
Decided to expand it maybe with COVID
Yeah, I can't remember.
because of spacing.
Yeah, I can remember, was it last year we were in the cafeteria at this go?
Out of the gym. I thought it was captured. Maybe I didn't know that. Maybe it was
Yeah, we were in the
the.
cafeteria.
Yeah, it was the gym.
Yeah.
This is full of flu shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we didn't do 2, we only did the 1.
Right. Yeah, thank you for bringing up the senior, because we want to capture that. So it might require their scheduling is different.
Right, because I think we did that one during the day.
We did.
So, again, that would just be something that we have a discussion with the BNA with, as to what would be ideal. And then based on the current health situation, tells us whether or not we can do.
Right.
But there aren't a lot of alternatives. And I believe we're mandated to have such a thing.
Yeah, okay.
The price has gone up. At one point, it was like around 25.
Again, that factored in, part of that increase was factoring in the services.
Boy, we were paying extra monthly for a while. when COVID
Uh,
first hit. And I think CARES Act money was used to
Yes,
pay for that,
right, that's right.
that extra monitoring that was
Yep.
needed. All right, next meeting,
So what do we got? Calendars?
we're on the 11th, so the next meeting, in 2 weeks, would be the 25th.
Fine with that. Okay,
I am fine with that.
7 PM again.
7 p.m. Yeah,
Do we want to do it virtually, hybrid? What do we want to do?
well, so, we're gonna get to the point probably where the open meeting laws are gonna go back to what they were. We're gonna be, we'd be meeting in person. But in addition to that, as part of the confirmation of our current annual town meeting, the votes have voted to include the audio video as part of it. So no matter how you look at it, it's gonna become a hybrid.
So it would be here.
So, well, we have one of 3 venues that we can use. We can use here, we could use the police station, or we could use the library. And what would dictate that basically is we submit our agendas to Ellen. Ellen knows the schedules of the rooms. So if there's not a conflict, chances are we'd be here. But if there happen to be a conflict on a given night, no one would have to book us in one of the other places.
Gotcha.
And that's only because all 3 of those 3 venues are set up with the audio video. That's gonna be a requirement for us to, spend an hour built into the process. Yeah.
Okay, do you want me to continue with the agenda? I don't mind.
Well, what's your thought?
You showed me how to do it, I'll start doing it.
Yeah, Ellen was very good. She actually sent me this template.
Okay.
And then as Tom and AJ during the 2 weeks would come up with things, they would send me a text.
Okay.
And then I would put them on the agenda. So basically, I'm just filling in on the template that Ellen gave me. I'm
Okay.
filling in the agenda part.
Yeah.
And then I was filling in this part here, which is gonna stay the same unless she changes it. And then over here for the phone conference ID, I would just put question marks because Ellen was handling that.
Okay,
So I don't mind doing it if it takes something off your plate for a while.
if you can do this last one from this meeting, so
Yeah.
I can just compare it to what's been going on, I'll be glad to do the next one after that. Makes sense enough, yes.
Oh,
All right, so after this meeting,
yeah, this meeting is right here.
no, you do the next meeting
One
one.
the next.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I don't mind. In fact, my daughter put a on Sunday.
It's got high tech thanks to its daughters.
Yeah, boy, I do it up, my daughters and my wife. Yeah, no, I don't have a problem, and, like I said, so I'll say something to AJ later, but if there's anything that comes up during the 2 weeks, text me on my personal cell phone, and I'll put it on the agenda.
Okay,
And the one thing you want to just be aware of, not to worry about this cycle, but if you start to do it, you probably don't want to see the meetings go too long if we can help it. This is. Try to keep it within what, an hour and a half to 2 hour range, Alan, was,
Yeah,
right? What we're trying to do, meeting that, so whatever we put on the agenda,
Mhm.
and different things. If we think it's gonna be a small item, try to look
okay,
over agenda size.
all right.
and if someone's coming in, like let's say Fred Lapham's coming in for a property, and we try to handle that stuff first,
Yeah.
so that they're not hanging around
Yeah, get 'em in,
for
get
a
'em
whole meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to help.
So we either try to organize that ahead of time, or we'll shift things around.
Yeah.
When they come in. So it doesn't matter, who it is, even if, let's say, town administrator was coming to our meeting for something,
Yeah.
or calling in even. We try to get that out of the way
Yeah,
so that they can move on to something else.
Yeah.
Rather than go through our whole meeting. Not that our meeting's not exciting.
no, not at all.
Well, no, they can free up now, they can take the rest of the nights there, because we're meeting anyway, so we can handle their needs and just try to be courteous to those that should, that come, that's all.
Yeah.
Because the other stuff is usually internal. So let's take care of the people on the outside, their issues. I'm just discussing generally what we need to, so all the people have to listen to all that stuff, like. That they're not necessarily interested in listening. Right?
All right, so, I step down and make a motion,
You would step down and make a motion.
step down and make a motion to adjourn?
I will second the motion. Want the gavel?
No.
All right, we're so adjourned.
All righty.
I'm going to, for Jack's. Vacation. I missed it. Dismiss. I'm gonna go and stop the recording. No, you don't.
Very good.